Why must interstellar journeys embrace slowness and patience? How could a generation ship sustain life across centuries? Why is a starship like a seed carrying Earth's spark into space? In the quiet of a starry night, the distance between stars feels like a whisper. A single point of light glimmers on the black canvas of space, and we imagine reaching for it across the darkness. The cosmos stretches out silently in all directions, vast beyond comprehension. Each tiny star is a sun like our own, separated by gulfs so wide that even a beam of light takes years to bridge them. In this immense expanse, there is a profound stillness, a hush between the stars that invites reflection. Out here, sound has no medium to carry it. Space itself is silent. If you could stand between the stars, you would hear nothing but your own thoughts and perhaps the faint rhythm of your heart. The silence is ancient and nearly absolute, broken only by the faint murmur of your presence. In that silence, distances speak not in noise, but in light. The gentle glow of faraway suns, the occasional streak of a meteor, the dim outline of a distant galaxy. These lights whisper of unimaginable remoteness, of time and space so great that our minds can barely hold them. Looking up from the surface of our own world on a clear night, we sense a hint of that vastness. The sky above seems calm and endless, sprinkled with pinpoints of light that have travelled across ages to reach our eyes. A shooting star might dash briefly across the sky, a tiny herald from some far-off place, reminding us that even a quick streak of light has journeyed millions of miles. We feel both small and connected, a part of this grand, quiet tapestry. Between those stars lies the interstellar void, a deep, dark ocean of near-nothingness. It's not an absolute emptiness, but the particles are so few and far between that for us it is effectively void. Drifting in that expanse, one would sense the enormity of space as a soft, enveloping presence. The darkness isn't frightening, it's calm and profound, like the stillness of a midnight field under winter snow. Imagine floating there, between sun and sun, with nothing to hear but the beating of your own heart and maybe the distant hum of a spacecraft's systems. In this silent ocean, every journey must be deliberate and patient. There can be no quick sprints between stars. Even light, the swiftest thing we know, moves at a finite pace that leaves us waiting years for news from even our nearest stellar neighbour. For a spacecraft, crossing just 1 light year, about 10 trillion kilometres, would take an extraordinary effort. If we cannot go faster by brute force, then any voyage to another star must embrace the long passage of time. It becomes the work of generations. So we begin to think differently about travelling in space. Instead of a rapid dash, we imagine something more enduring, a slow crossing that carries life safely through the dark. To span those whispered distances, we would need to bring a whole little world with us. Our ship would need to be more than a vehicle. It would have to be a home, a tiny, self-sufficient planet sailing between suns. Inside it, life could go on day by day, even while outside the starry gulf stretches on. This idea is both humbling and hopeful. Humbling because it acknowledges the true scale of the universe. Distances so vast that we must bow to them, adapt to them. Hopeful because it suggests we can find a way. We can bring our own warmth and light into the void, create a bubble of life that traverses the darkness. If the stars are too far to reach in one lifetime, then we will take many lifetimes along for the journey. Thus is born the notion of a generationship, a vessel that journeys for decades or centuries, so long that those who set out will not be the ones to arrive. Instead, their children or grandchildren, or many generations down the line, will complete the voyage. Such a ship would carry not just people, but an entire ecosystem, a miniature Earth to sustain its travellers. It would travel at a careful, steady pace, conserving energy and nurturing life within its hull, like a fragile seed crossing a great ocean. Imagine that ship as a seed from Earth, encased in a protective shell, containing everything it needs to grow a new garden of life on a distant shore. Inside, under starlit skies of its own making, people would live and love, plants would flourish, water would cycle, an oasis moving through the emptiness. Outside, the universe would be silent and cold, but inside the seed, life would quietly persevere, generation after generation. The thought of it invites us to pause in awe. In the silent void between stars, a small human-made world could glide and endure, carrying our hopes across light years. The emptiness around it would be vast, but within there would be warmth, voices, and dreams. Tiny, persistent sparks of life defying the dark. To undertake such a voyage, we must be prepared for patience beyond any journey humanity has ever attempted. This is not a leap or a sprint. It's more like planting a tree whose fruit will only be tasted by our descendants. It requires faith that the destination will be reached one day, long after the start. And it requires faith in those future generations that they will carry forward what we began. As we stand under our familiar sky, thinking of the distance to even the nearest star, we realize a truth. To cross those gulfs, we must ourselves become dwellers of the journey. We must craft a ship that is a world and make our voyage into a way of life. Only then can we hope to whisper across the void. In the hush of the cosmic night, we consider the challenge and accept it. We will answer the call of the stars, not with frantic haste, but with quiet determination. We will become, in essence, seeds in a shell, living worlds cast into the sea of space, trusting that with time, care, and perseverance, we will find new soil where those seeds can bloom. And indeed, the starship we build is like a seed carrying the vital spark of earthly life inside a protective shell. It is a vessel designed not for speed, but for endurance. The journey to another star will be incredibly long, measured not in days or years, but in generations. Racing across space at high velocity would demand an almost unimaginable amount of energy. And even then, the distances are so great that the gain in time might be small compared to the cost. Instead, we choose a gentler path, a slower voyage that conserves energy, resources, and the well-being of those on board. In the dark ocean between suns, haste can be dangerous, like sprinting through unknown waters. A steady cruise, deliberate and unhurried, allows us to navigate safely and carefully. This choice to travel slowly is not born of weakness, but of wisdom. In taking our time, we reduce the strain on our fragile moving world. The engines can burn more quietly, consuming fuel at a careful rate so that it lasts for decades. The structure of the ship can bear the journey without the extreme stresses of abrupt acceleration. The people aboard can live relatively normal lives, walking, working, and dreaming, rather than being confined to long periods of sleep or enduring crushing forces. A slow voyage becomes a living voyage, where life can flourish during transit instead of merely enduring it. Imagine the starship coasting through the blackness, its propulsion system giving just a gentle push, day after day. Perhaps it uses sunlight when it can, deploying great reflective sails that catch the faint rays of our distant sun, or the sparse winds of particles streaming through space. Or maybe it relies on a quiet nuclear heart, steadily releasing energy to drive it forward, with engines that glow faintly like a warm hearth in the night. However it moves, it does so with a kind of patience. From afar, one might barely notice its motion at all. It drifts against the starry background so slowly that only over months does its position appreciably change. And yet, change it does, inching ever closer to its far-off goal. Inside this seed-like ship, the pace of life finds a natural rhythm with the journey. Days and nights might be simulated to give a sense of time, or perhaps the travellers set their own internal clocks that suit their voyage. Without the urgency of a short trip, they can settle into routines that span years. Children can be born and grow up knowing only this voyage as their normal way of life. They learn about distant Earth and the star ahead as abstract ideas, while their real, immediate world is the ship's habitat. This slow unfolding of life aboard the vessel means that, in a sense, the arrival at the destination becomes almost secondary to the living that happens along the way. Why does this kind of travel matter? Because it allows humanity to undertake journeys that would otherwise be impossible. If we insisted on going faster, we might never go at all. Our technology may not allow it, or the cost could be too high. By embracing slowness, we accept the reality of distance and turn it to our advantage. We make the voyage itself into a home. It teaches patience and foresight. Resources are finite, so they must be managed carefully over long spans of time. Every system in the ship has to be efficient and repairable. Excess and waste have no place here. Conservation is not just prudent, it's survival. In learning to travel slowly, we learn to live sustainably, a lesson that might enrich our lives both in space and back on Earth. Think of a seed drifting on the wind. It doesn't rush, yet it carries the precious code of life inside. It is encased in a shell that shields it from the elements as it travels, perhaps for days or weeks, until it finds soil where it can sprout. Our starship is like that. Encased in metal and ceramic layers, it guards a small pocket of air and warmth against the vacuum and cold outside. Micrometeorites, radiation, the vast emptiness. These are the hazards this seed must endure, and its shell provides protection. The ship's hull is strong and resilient, like the coat of a seed, preventing harm from the harsh environment of space. Inside, everything is carefully arranged to support the spark of life during the long journey. As it travels between stars, the ship also carries our culture and knowledge, another kind of seed within the seed. Books, art, music, scientific wisdom, history, all the things that make us human accompany the voyagers so that humanity's heritage isn't left behind. On a slow journey, there is time to preserve and even expand this cultural treasure. The travelers might write new stories, compose new songs, develop new traditions that fit their floating world. The seed of Earth's life can grow in its own way during the passage. This means that when the ship finally arrives at a new world, it lands not with the same society that departed, but with one that has grown and changed en route. It's akin to a seed that not only carries the blueprint of a tree, but perhaps even germinates slightly during the trip, arriving ready to take root and flourish. Slow travel has its own poetry. By not rushing, the journey becomes something one can savor. Generations aboard will watch the stars shift positions slowly over their lifetimes. They might mark the passage of distance by the subtle changing of constellations, or the gradual brightening of a particular star ahead as they approach it, the way dawn slowly unveils a horizon. Such changes are delicate and require patience to perceive, but that makes them all the more profound. To live on a generation ship is to enter a different timescale, where progress is measured in years and decades rather than hours or days. This expanded view of time can inspire a deep calm and perspective. Of course, taking the slow road to the stars demands faith. Faith that the goal will be reached eventually, and faith in the descendants who must continue what the initial crew began. It is an act of intergenerational trust. Those who first board the ship set in motion a story they will not see concluded. They must trust that their children and grandchildren will carry it forward. In a fast journey, one might dream of stepping onto alien soil within a single lifetime. But in a slow odyssey, one finds contentment in being a part of something larger, contributing a chapter to a story that others will finish. That perspective can be comforting, knowing that a life spent entirely in transit still has purpose as a bridge between the world of origin and the world to come. Thus, the seed in its shell journeys on, not in haste, but with deep resolve. It holds within it the elements of an entire world, compact and protected. Every day of travel is a day of life sustained and a step toward the future. The slow approach lets the small world aboard adapt gradually to changes and challenges, giving people time to solve problems, learn, and teach the next generation. The crew becomes adept at living among the stars, as naturally as others live on land or sea. Over time, they might even forget the feeling of open sky or wind on their face. But they carry those sensations in stories and dreams, nurturing them gently until one day they can experience them again. By crossing the void in this patient manner, we affirm something essential, that life and hope are worth carrying forward, even if it takes centuries to find a new home. The journey itself stands as a testament to human perseverance and faith in tomorrow. It may be a long night's journey through darkness, but it is not a lonely one. For within that travelling seed, life quietly thrives. Hearts beat, voices share comfort and curiosity. Children play, and elders impart wisdom. This moving sanctuary of life drifts on through the night, guided by our collective dreams. And those dreams, the ones that first ignited our desire to voyage among the stars, now call softly from our past, lighting the way forward like lanterns in the dark. Long before any spacecraft carried people beyond Earth, the stars captured our imaginations. In the ancient night, around glowing fires under open skies, our ancestors looked up and wondered what those diamond lights might be. They spun stories about gods, heroes, and animals placed among the constellations. Perhaps they imagined journeying there on chariots of fire or on the wings of mythical birds. These early myths were our first lanterns of imagination, casting a gentle light on the unknown expanse above. In them lived the seeds of a dream, that one day, somehow, we might find a way to touch those distant points of light. As centuries passed, understanding grew, yet the dream persisted. We learned that Earth is not the center of all things, but just one world, circling one star among countless others. The universe expanded in our minds. The stars were no longer just lights on a dome. They were other suns, far away, possibly with worlds of their own. The realization was daunting, but exhilarating. New stories were written, no longer only of gods and spirits, but of travelers and explorers. Early scientists and thinkers pondered what it would take to cross the void. They drafted wild ideas in the quiet of their studies. Enormous ships powered by starlight or atom-splitting engines. Whole communities living in metal spheres or in hollowed asteroids. These speculative visions were bold and ahead of their time, yet they kept the flame of possibility alive. One early dreamer, about a century ago, wrote of an interstellar arc that could carry people away from a dying Earth to a new sun. He imagined carving a habitat out of a small moon, with engines to push it across the galaxy. Another visionary spoke of giant rotating cylinders in space, where generations of humans could thrive. Self-contained oases amid the stars. Science fiction writers picked up these ideas and breathed life into them, crafting tales of ships that journeyed for hundreds of years. In their stories, entire societies were born, lived, and died aboard wandering vessels, with distant Earth fading into legend. These tales, though fictional, served as lanterns of memory and hope. They reminded each new generation not to forget the dream of the stars. Meanwhile, humanity took its first real steps upward. The mid-20th century saw rockets pierce the sky, sending satellites into orbit and astronauts to our nearest neighbor, the Moon. For the first time, we left the cradle of Earth, if only for brief moments, and felt the wonder of space firsthand. We built space stations that circled our planet, learning how to live without gravity for months at a time. We experimented with closed life support systems, trying to grow plants in tiny sealed habitats and to recycle air and water on a small scale. Each experiment and mission was a lantern along the trail, illuminating the path toward longer voyages. With each success and setback, knowledge accumulated about how we might survive away from Earth's nurturing atmosphere and abundant resources. Throughout this progress, the idea of a generationship remained on the far horizon of our aspirations. It was the ultimate journey, requiring the ultimate commitment. Even as robotic probes slipped out of the solar system and telescopes found planets around distant suns, we knew that sending living, breathing humans to those far dots of light would be a challenge like no other. Yet the allure was always there. We would spot a particularly promising planet around a nearby star, a faint blue glimmer perhaps, and the dream would flare brighter. What if that world could be a second home? What if we could go there, carrying the best of Earth with us? Those questions ignited imaginations in laboratories and classrooms across the world. Teams of scientists, engineers, and thinkers sketched out what a multi-generational starship would require. They looked back to science fiction for inspiration and forward to new technologies for solutions. Over decades, a picture slowly formed of how one might actually build a self-contained world capable of crossing interstellar space. It would need to be large enough to hold a stable population and everything that population needs to survive. It would have to be robust against the dangers of space. Perhaps it would spin to create artificial gravity, or use advanced propulsion that could run for centuries. Energy, food, water, air, all the necessities of life would have to be renewed in a closed loop, since nothing could be resupplied once the ship left Earth. As these ideas solidified, they were shared and refined, passed like a torch from one group of thinkers to the next. And in every discussion, alongside technical plans, came the acknowledgement of the human element, the culture, the memories, the purpose that would sustain people on such a voyage. What stories would they tell to remind themselves of home? What holidays or rituals might they carry with them, or invent anew among the stars? These questions were not trivial. They were vital. A generationship would be more than a machine. It would be a travelling society, with all the complexity and need for meaning that any society has. To keep that society healthy and motivated over centuries, they would need strong lanterns to light their way, shared memories of Earth, cherished goals for the future, and a sense of continuity from one generation to the next. The phrase, lanterns of memory, evokes an image. Imagine the darkness of space as a long night, and within it, lights of recollection and knowledge being handed down like lamps along a path. Each generation aboard the starship holds its lantern high, illuminating the way for their children. The lanterns are the stories of old Earth, the blue oceans, green forests, and familiar skies that the first generation once knew, and that later generations know only through tales and archives. They are also the principles and lessons learned from history, guiding decisions in the new, self-contained world of the ship. And beyond that, those lanterns are the dreams of reaching the destination, the faith that at the end of the long night there will be a dawn on a new world. It's humbling to think that the fantasies of ancient storytellers and the calculations of modern scientists together paved the road to this moment. Humanity preparing to launch a world of its own into the cosmos. Each idea, each dream, each story has been a light in the darkness, showing a possible way forward. Many of those early visions seemed impossible at first, but piece by piece, we gathered the knowledge to turn some of them into reality. And now, as a generation stands ready to become interstellar travelers, they carry with them all those lights from the past. Those inspirations are built into the very design of the mission and the culture on the ship. The generationship that stands ready to depart is, in a way, the sum of countless dreams. Its hull, its gardens, its libraries and computers filled with knowledge, all are reflections of humanity's collected hopes and experiences. When it leaves Earth, it will shine with the glow of those lanterns of memory, a beacon of life moving through the dark. It will be as if one of those stars our ancestors gazed at from campfires long ago has come to life and set sail. We send our own small star, rich with life and remembrance, out into the void. The dreams that guided us here will accompany us on the journey ahead, ensuring we do not lose our way. And so, guided by these gentle lights of inspiration and remembrance, we turn to the vessel that will carry them. Our focus shifts to the ship itself, the world that will cradle our travelers, generation after generation, as they traverse the cosmic night. In this man-made world, the dreams and plans of ages take physical form, providing everything needed for life to thrive far from any planet. It is to this floating sanctuary we now look, as it awaits its role in the great journey. The generationship is a marvel of human creativity, a self-contained world drifting through space. From the outside, it might look like a massive cylinder or an enclosed city, sturdy and shielded. But it's the inside that truly astounds. Stepping through the airlock, one enters a miniature planet. The habitat is designed to sustain life just as Earth does, only in microcosm. There are landscapes under its ceilings, perhaps a central park with real soil where crops and trees grow under lamps that mimic sunlight. A small stream of recycled water might wind through this park, aerating and soothing with its gentle trickle. The air smells of green leaves and damp earth, a comforting scent that makes people feel at home despite the steel walls that separate them from the vacuum outside. This ship is an ecosystem. Every living thing aboard, from the tallest fruit tree in the arboretum to the tiniest microbes in a compost bin, plays a role in keeping the environment balanced. Plants release oxygen and absorb carbon dioxide, refreshing the air for people to breathe. Bacteria and worms break down waste, turning yesterday's scraps into tomorrow's fertile soil. Water recirculates endlessly. It evaporates from the leaves and the hydroponic pools, condenses on cool surfaces, and is collected and purified to flow again. It's a carefully managed dance of life. In essence, the ship's interior is a miniature Earth, an ark bearing the seeds of life through the sea of stars. It's also a village in space. The people aboard aren't just crew members. They form a community. Families, friends, colleagues, living full lives. They have homes, cozy cabins lined along curved corridors. They have gathering places, maybe a common dining hall where everyone shares meals, or a schoolroom where children learn about both the ship and the Earth they left behind. There might be a little infirmary, a workshop, a laboratory, even a corner for quiet meditation or prayer. Daily life has routines, much like it did on Earth. Cooking, cleaning, teaching, repairing, celebrating. Imagine a child's birthday on the ship. Friends assemble in a decorated corner of the garden dome, singing softly, so as not to startle the birds that help pollinate the plants, sharing a treat baked from the ship's wheat and fruit preserves. Such scenes make the ship feel like a true home, not just a vehicle. The architecture of the habitat helps sustain that feeling of home. If the ship uses rotation to simulate gravity, then down might be toward the outer hull. The floor gently curves upward in the distance, wrapping around into the sky until it becomes the ceiling far overhead. Someone standing in the park might see, arching above them, another patch of green, perhaps the roof of a far-side farm or another living quarter, appearing upside down from their perspective. It's strange at first, but eventually comforting. It means everywhere you look, you see your world, not emptiness. Lighting panels brighten and dim on a 24 or 25-hour cycle to simulate day and night. At noon, the interior is awash with golden light. At midnight, it is dim and peaceful, and one might even project a view of stars on the ceiling to mimic an open sky. These rhythms help everyone maintain a sense of time and normalcy. The generationship is also a library and museum. Stored within its databases, and perhaps in physical books and artifacts, is the heritage of Earth. There could be a chamber that serves as a museum of humanity. Items like a vial of ocean water, a small globe of Earth, art prints of famous paintings, musical instruments to play songs from various cultures. The ship's computer holds vast archives, literature, scientific knowledge, history, images, and videos of Earth's landscapes and animals, so that nothing important is forgotten. The people aboard can access this trove whenever they miss home or need to remember a piece of knowledge. Storytelling nights might be common. An elder recounts a traditional tale under the artificial twilight, children listening with wonder to stories of rainforests, thunderstorms, and snow, things they have never directly experienced, but can picture through descriptions and recordings. Not only human life is preserved, the vessel is an ark in every sense. In addition to the plants growing in the soil, and maybe a few small animals, perhaps fish in a tank, insects to pollinate, maybe a few songbirds. The ship carries the genetic materials of countless species. Deep in storage, seeds from many of Earth's plants lie dormant, and embryos or DNA of many animals are carefully kept. These precious stores ensure that when the ship finds a new world, the settlers can sow forests, breed animals, and restore as much of Earth's ecosystem as possible on alien soil. Knowing they carry this living cargo gives the travelers a profound sense of purpose. They are not just voyagers, but guardians of the continuity of life. Maintaining this world ship is a constant endeavour. Crew members have roles. Some are farmers and gardeners, tending crops and checking soil health. Some are engineers, maintaining the electrical systems, water recyclers, and air purifiers. Others are doctors, teachers, cooks, scientists, technicians. Everyone contributes. They hold regular meetings to discuss the state of the habitat, comparing it to a patient that must be kept healthy. Is the oxygen level good? Do we need to plant more greens or adjust the lights? How is the water supply, the temperature, the structural integrity? By staying vigilant, they address issues while they're small. A leak in a water pipe or a wilting patch of garden is given immediate attention. Each person knows that the well-being of the entire community depends on these systems. Beyond the technical care, they also tend to the social and emotional health of their small society. There are movie nights, games, shared art projects. Perhaps they celebrate Earth holidays, adapted to their context. Imagine a home day each year on the anniversary of launch, where they cook traditional dishes and everyone shares a memory or a family story from Earth. There might be new holidays too, like mid-voyage day when they reach the halfway point, or a special day to honor the original crew and the mission. Space is at a premium, but thoughtful design ensures there are places that feel open. The Central Park or greenhouse area likely serves that purpose. High ceilings, wide greenery, so people never feel too confined. And if anyone feels cabin fever, there are observation ports where they can peer out at the stars, reminded of the grand expanse outside. Sometimes, just seeing the endless cosmos beyond the walls gives a perspective that their cozy world, though small, is complete and sufficient for now. Living in a ship that is a world teaches everyone a profound lesson in interdependence. They see daily how the circle of life operates in closed loop. They come to understand intimately that nothing can be taken for granted. Every drop of water, every breath of air is recycled and precious. This awareness fosters a sense of gratitude and cooperation. Conflicts still happen. People are people. But there's a quiet understanding among them that they need each other to survive and to stay sane on this long journey. Disagreements are resolved with that in mind, often through calm discussion or with the help of community mediators before they can fester. Truly, this ship is a world in every meaningful sense. It sustains life, nurtures a society, preserves memory, and carries the seeds of the future. When one walks its corridors lined with little homes, or tends the tomatoes in the hydroponic garden, or hears children laughing in a classroom, it's easy to forget that just beyond the hull lies a cold void. That thin barrier of metal and composite separates a warm, living universe inside from the silent emptiness outside. And yet, through ingenuity and care, that barrier holds, and life flourishes within. Every morning, when the lights brighten, it is a reminder that the world ship has made it safely through another cycle, that the little sun inside still shines, and the little ecosystem still thrives. Every night, when the lights dim and people drift to sleep, they can do so knowing that their artificial sky will brighten again, bringing another day of this unique life. In this carefully balanced dance of technology and nature, the generation ship journeys onward. It shows that even in the most unearthly of places, we can create a home, complete with all that we cherish: air and water, music and learning, friendship and hope. And as we consider how this floating world functions so beautifully, we naturally turn to the question of how such a voyage came to be, and who among us was chosen to carry humanity's torch to the stars. Within the generation ship's closed walls, everything moves in cycles. Every breath, every drop of water, every scrap of food is part of a continuous loop that sustains the travelers. It is a gentle choreography of renewal, a dance of air, water, and soil that keeps life going through the long night of space. Consider the air. A person inhales, then exhales carbon dioxide. Nearby, in the hydroponic gardens, green leaves eagerly drink in that carbon dioxide and, with the help of light, convert it into new plant matter. In doing so, the plants release oxygen, which the people then breathe in again. Around and around it goes, a harmonious exchange. Day by day, the air is refreshed by this partnership of human and plant. In addition, machines stand by, filters and chemical scrubbers that can remove excess CO2 or add O2 if needed, smoothing out the balance. But most of the work is done by the living greenery that adorns the ship. You might see crew members talking to the potted ferns or tomato vines, half-jokingly thanking them for the day's fresh air. Now water. Not a drop is wasted. The water you used to drink tea in the morning might be the same water that, weeks ago, flowed through the roots of a lettuce in the garden, or months before that, was part of a cloud painted on the ceiling of the habitat. Water cycles endlessly. It evaporates from the surface of the little pond, from damp laundry hung to dry, from the very breath and sweat of the people. Dehumidifiers and condensers capture that invisible moisture from the air, turning it back into liquid. That water is filtered, purified, by both mechanical systems and perhaps beds of reeds or tanks of algae that absorb impurities, and stored. Then it's ready to be used anew, poured into soil to nourish crops, or drawn from a tap to fill someone's cup. Every time water is used, whether for drinking, washing, or watering plants, it eventually finds its way back to the central reservoirs, cleaned and waiting to begin the cycle again. The people aboard have learned to be mindful. A quick shower instead of a long one, an efficient method for washing dishes, always aware that their water is finite and precious, circulating within the ship's life support loop. And the soil, or what stands in for soil. In fields and garden beds aboard, plants draw nutrients to grow: nitrogen, phosphorus, trace minerals. When leaves yellow and fall or vegetables are harvested and eaten, all those nutrients must find their way back. Kitchen scraps, inedible plant stalks, fruit peels, coffee grounds, anything organic, goes to the composters or bioreactors. In warm, rotating drums or special bins, colonies of bacteria and helpful insects like worms break down the detritus. It's a quiet, unseen labour. Within those bins, the cycle of decay mirrors what happens on a forest floor. After some time, dark, rich compost emerges. This is returned to the gardens, mixed into planters, or dissolved into hydroponic solutions, feeding the next generation of crops. Even human waste, once processed safely through advanced treatment systems, contributes to fertilization in a form that's clean and usable. In this way, yesterday's wilted salad leaves help tomorrow's seedlings to flourish. The circle of life is very visible on the ship. Children learn early on that the orange carrot they enjoy came from soil enriched by plants, and yes, maybe people, from meals past. There is no away to throw things. There is only transformation and reuse. This continuous cycling is carefully monitored, but in many ways becomes simply the way of life. Everyone aboard is conscious of it, participating almost ritually, separating their trash, collecting grey water from sinks for recycling, tending the compost worms with respect. They know that their survival depends on these cycles remaining unbroken and clean. A hiccup in one part, say the algae in a water purifier tank getting sick, or a decline in plant health reducing oxygen, could have serious consequences. So the crew tends these systems as lovingly as one would tend a sacred garden. The balance is delicate, but resilient, if cared for. Each morning, environmental officers check readings: oxygen percentage, CO2 levels, humidity, water purity, nutrient levels in hydroponic tanks. Often, everything is in the green. If something is slightly off, perhaps the CO2 is a bit high after a big gathering in the dining hall the night before, they know exactly how to respond. Increase airflow to the greenhouse, for instance, or temporarily boost the lights for more photosynthesis. If water reserves dip, they might enforce a brief conservation period and ensure the condensers are working at peak efficiency. These adjustments become second nature. Yet, beyond the science, there's a kind of gentle reverence for the way it all works. Sometimes a crew member will step back and marvel at it, breathing on a plant and laughing softly, knowing the plant will return that breath later. Or watching droplets form on the inside of a window and appreciating that as the ship's own little rain. It instills a profound sense of connection to each other and to every living thing aboard. After all, they truly rely on one another. The people need the plants and fish. The plants need the people and the microbes. The microbes need the waste the people and plants produce. It's a closed circle of dependency, a little community that includes every organism. Even energy is cycled in its way. Lights that nourish the plants are powered by the ship's reactor or solar panels, and the waste heat from those lamps is captured to warm living quarters or drive other processes. Nothing is left unused if it can be reclaimed. They have, in effect, created a pocket of Earth's biosphere that is largely self-sustaining. Living with this knowledge fosters a great respect for balance. On Earth, it's easy to take resources for granted. People can waste water or throw away heaps of trash, and Earth's vastness conceals the immediate impact. But on the ship, cause and effect are more intimate. If someone wasted water or neglected to fix a minor leak, it could mean a serious shortage later. If they experimented recklessly with some part of the ecosystem, they could upset the whole balance. So everyone practices what you might call ecological mindfulness. They take only what they need. They find ways to repurpose items rather than dispose of them. A broken piece of machinery is repaired, or its components saved for spares. An old garment might be patched into a quilt. Leftover water from boiling vegetables might go to the hydroponic garden. It becomes almost a game and an art. keeping the circle flowing smoothly. This way of life has benefits beyond survival. It gives the travelers a deep sense of harmony and purpose. Each person knows that by simply living carefully, by breathing, eating, working, and tending the ship conscientiously, they are part of a life-sustaining miracle. The ship itself is often spoken of in almost living terms. It breathes with its air circulation. It drinks when recycling water. It digests in the composters. Many aboard feel that the ship is not just a metal object, but a whole living community of which they are members. And so, day by day, the closed-loop life support hums along. The air remains fresh, the water clear, the gardens green. The people aboard trust these systems, but never take them for granted. They celebrate them. They sing songs about the water cycle in a playful way for the kids. They have poems about the air and the plants. They give thanks during communal meals for the closed circle that provides their nourishment. In this manner, life continues gently and reliably. The ship breathes, and the people breathe with it in unison. The success of these cycles also underlines why not just anyone could embark on this voyage. It takes a special kind of mindset to live gracefully within limits, to find freedom in responsibility. This understanding naturally leads to thoughts of the crew themselves and how they were chosen to carry humanity's hopes on such a journey. From the moment the dream of a generation ship became serious, humanity faced a delicate question. Who would go on this journey? The starship could only carry a limited population, perhaps a few hundred or a few thousand at most. Choosing those few out of billions on Earth was a task heavy with responsibility, ethics, and emotion. It had to be done carefully and fairly. Many people volunteered. The idea of leaving Earth behind to voyage among the stars captured imaginations worldwide. Scientists, engineers, farmers, teachers, artists, people from all walks of life felt the call. Some were drawn by the spirit of adventure and discovery, others by a desire to help ensure humanity's future. As the applications poured in, it became clear that far more were willing to go than could be accommodated. This enthusiasm was heartening, but it also meant that difficult decisions loomed. To guide the selection, criteria were established that balanced practical needs with fairness. First, the crew would need a wide range of skills. This new world in transit would require experts in life support, medicine, agriculture, mechanics, ecology, navigation, and more. It would also need people with practical skills: carpenters, plumbers, electricians, jack-of-all-trades types who could repair and maintain the myriad systems of the ship. But equally important were personal qualities: adaptability, emotional resilience, cooperation, and a temperament suited to living in close quarters for long periods. The selectors looked for individuals who were calm under pressure, good at resolving conflicts, and comfortable with a life of routine, punctuated by the unusual challenges of space. Psychologists and sociologists were deeply involved in the process. They helped design simulations and group exercises to gauge how candidates might handle the realities of life in a small, isolated community. Groups of hopefuls were put together in remote habitats on Earth for weeks or months to simulate shipboard living. They practiced living with recycling systems, with limited resources, and with only each other for company. These trials revealed not just who could solve engineering puzzles or grow crops in a sealed dome, but who could resolve disagreements kindly, who could cope with homesickness or monotony, who could lift others' spirits during challenging times. Observers quietly noted collaboration, empathy, leadership, and ingenuity in these simulations. The ethical framework for selection was openly discussed from the start. The mission was on behalf of all humanity, not any single nation or tribe. Therefore, the crew would reflect humanity's rich tapestry. People from different countries, cultures, and languages were included, so that the new world would carry forward the diversity of Earth. This also helped galvanize global support. Nearly everyone on Earth could look at the crew and find someone they related to or took pride in. It was decided that families could go as units if they wished. The thought was that having couples and even children aboard would create more stability and normalcy. Children especially symbolized hope. They would be the ones to live most of their lives on the ship and perhaps step foot on a new world. Still, with all these guidelines, how to fairly narrow the pool? In addition to skill and diversity considerations, a lottery element was introduced. Among those qualified and willing, some slots were filled by random draw. This allowed ordinary people, not just those with advanced degrees or specialized training, a chance to embark, under the premise that a society needs every kind of person. The lottery was weighted slightly, for instance, to avoid all drawn being from one region, or to ensure a mix of ages and talents, but it was largely by chance. This approach gave the selection process a layer of perceived fairness. Those who stayed behind could imagine that, if things had gone a bit differently, it might have been them aboard, or someone like them. In a way, everyone had a stake in the mission. When the final crew manifest was published, it revealed an assembly both extraordinary and ordinary. There were indeed experts, engineers who had helped design the ship, biologists who had run the closed ecosystem experiments, seasoned astronauts from various space agencies. But there were also those chosen by the lottery or broad criteria: a schoolteacher, a poet, skilled tradespeople, farmers. The ages ranged from teenagers, accompanying their parents and ready to grow into roles on board, to older mentors in their 50s who carried decades of wisdom. Roughly half the crew were couples or family groups. The rest were single individuals. There was an equal mix of men and women and representation from many ethnic backgrounds and languages. In training, they all adopted a common tongue for practical communication, but the cultural mosaic was preserved in songs, stories, and traditions they all shared with one another. For the individuals who were selected, the moment of finding out was life-changing. They knew they would trade the infinite sky of Earth for the curved metal horizon of the ship's interior. They would swap their neighborhoods, towns, and cities for a single floating village. They would say goodbye to oceans, forests, and open air, carrying only memories and digital images of those beloved things. They also understood that this goodbye was not just for a year or a decade. It was likely forever, barring some unforeseen possibility of return. Each selected crew member faced heart-to-heart conversations with loved ones. Some had to make the decision to leave family behind, aging parents or siblings who couldn't come. Others were bringing their entire households, but had to part with friends and communities. It was a time of bittersweet gatherings, going-away parties that felt like a mix of celebration and wake, where hugs lasted long and every word felt weighted. The world treated the crew kindly in those final months. They became ambassadors of humanity. People wrote them letters, sent gifts, often small, thoughtful items to remind them of home. A grandmother in a remote village might send along a pressed flower from a local field. A group of school children might compile a book of drawings for them. Not all these tokens could be taken aboard due to space limits, but many were digitized and stored in the ship's cultural archives. This way, the crew could carry a piece of Earth's collective love and creativity with them. As the launch neared, the crew spent most of their time at the spaceport or training facility, largely secluded from the public eye. They were extremely busy, running final simulations, double-checking inventory, practicing contingency plans. But each was also processing the emotional weight of departure in their own way. Some kept journals, writing down their thoughts about leaving Earth so that future generations born in space might read first-hand accounts of what it felt like. Others made sure to capture their favorite views one last time, stepping outside late at night to imprint the chirping of crickets and the twinkling of familiar constellations in their minds, or walking barefoot on grass to remember the sensation. The night before launch, perhaps, the crew gathered in a circle in one of the facility's hangars. By now, they felt like a family. They held hands and observed a moment of silence for all they were leaving behind. Then, one by one, they shared aloud a pledge or hope. "I promise to do my best to keep our children healthy and smiling out there," said a doctor. "I will record everything I can, so Earth knows what becomes of us," said a historian crew member. "I hope to dream of Earth often, so I can tell those born on the ship about it," said a young pilot. "And I hope our journey brings out the very best in us, for the sake of everyone back home and those yet to come," said another. These promises hung in the air like gentle lights. By launch day, there was a collective sense around the globe that these voyagers carried the heart of humanity with them. The crew walked to the starship entry port as an orchestra played a slow, hopeful tune broadcast worldwide. They wore simple jumpsuits, not the bulky pressure suits of short space missions. This was to be their everyday attire in their new life. Just before boarding, many turned and gave one final wave to the cameras, or blew a kiss, or formed a smile of brave determination. And then they stepped through the hatch, chosen souls embarking on behalf of so many. Those left behind felt a mix of pride, sorrow, and wonder. It was not an abandonment. It was as if part of Earth herself was leaving, and part of Earth was staying. The crew was not them, but us. A piece of us moving farther away than any humans before. That knowledge made the parting gentler. Every goodbye carried the unspoken, "You are going for all of us. We are with you in spirit." And every crew member's final look said in return, "We won't let you down. We carry you with us." With the crew selected and prepared, the stage was set. It was time for humanity's long journey to truly begin, with one last glimpse of home, and then the first steps into the great unknown. Launch day arrives quietly after so many years of preparation. The great generationship, now fully loaded with supplies, and her intrepid crew, is poised to depart. For those aboard, the final morning on Earth, or in Earth's orbit, if they embarked from a space station, is a bittersweet blur of last embraces and tearful smiles. Families and friends gather one last time, some in person at the launch site, others via video links from around the globe, to witness this historic send-off. There are no grand fireworks or loud fanfares. In keeping with the mission's spirit, the farewell is marked by heartfelt simplicity. Words of love and encouragement are exchanged, some repeated over and over, as if saying them enough will make them last the decades of silence to come. "We'll be with you in spirit," say those staying behind. "We'll carry you with us," promise those about to leave, pressing palms to the glass of a shuttle window or the thick observation port of the ship during final boarding, as loved ones mirror the gesture from the other side. When the time comes, the crew take their positions. Some are at control stations, hands steady as they go through launch sequences with practiced calm. Others strap into seats near viewports, while a few stand together in communal areas, holding hands or simply sharing the moment in quiet solidarity. The ship's systems hum to life. power flowing, engines ready. Outside, the stars and the curve of the Earth frame a scene that will be etched into memory. The home planet, brilliant blue and white, achingly beautiful, filling the black sky in one direction. In the other, the infinite night and its countless stars beckon. Slowly, with a deep, controlled rumble, the generationship begins to move. If it departed from Earth's surface, massive rockets have already carried it into orbit. By now, those boosters are shed, and the ship glides free in space. If it was assembled in orbit, this is its first true push away from our planet. In either case, the motion is steady and unhurried. There is no sudden leap, no jarring acceleration, just a gradual, gentle thrust. The ship's quiet engines nudge it away from Earth's embrace. Inside, artificial gravity from rotation or a low, steady burn keeps everyone feeling a light but noticeable weight. It's as if the ship itself has gently taken the crew by the hand, guiding them out of the cradle. As Earth drifts behind them, many of the crew gather at windows or observation screens to take in their last direct view of the world that was their home. Some have brought small mementos, a handful of soil, a family photo, a beloved keepsake, and in this moment, they hold them close. Through the viewport, continents and oceans can be seen in miniature. The swirls of clouds above the sapphire oceans, the brown and green patchwork of lands, the dazzling white of polar ice. City lights twinkle along the edge of dusk where night creeps over the surface. It is a scene of sublime beauty and fragility. A few silent tears are shed, not from regret, but from the overwhelming poignancy of saying goodbye to an entire planet. Mission control and world leaders send final messages as the distance grows. A voice reads a brief statement over the radio, wishing the travelers Godspeed on behalf of all humanity. The ship's captain responds with a calm, heartfelt message of gratitude, thanking everyone for their trust and promising to carry the legacy of Earth to the stars. Then comes the final signal. The journey is officially underway. The main engines ignite more fully. They are not loud like the launch rockets were. Instead, the crew feel a gentle push and a steady vibration humming through the floors and walls, a reminder that now the ship is truly underway, powering out into the void. Those watching from Earth's surface or near Earth orbit see the vessel slowly, inexorably recede, a bright glimmer of its drives visible against the dark. For the crew, the soft gravity of home still lingers. In a physical sense, Earth's gravity has relaxed its hold on them. They are in microgravity, or a carefully controlled artificial gravity environment now. But emotionally, the pull of home is strong and tender. They feel it in their hearts, a tug that reminds them of everything they have left behind. It's the faces of loved ones, the smell of rain on soil, the taste of familiar foods, the feeling of belonging to a place. This subtle gravity doesn't vanish with distance. It will accompany them always, an invisible thread connecting them to where they came from. Some aboard whisper quiet farewells. Goodbye, beautiful world, or until we meet again in memories. Others simply watch in reverent silence as the sphere of Earth grows smaller, from a vast presence filling their view to a curved horizon, then to a shrinking orb among the stars. The goodbyes are long, stretched out over time and distance. For a while, communication remains possible. Voices and images traverse the gap via radio waves or laser links. In the first hours, the crew can speak almost normally with those back on Earth, the signals taking only a second or two to cross the distance. Families share final live conversations, jokes to lighten the mood, reassurances given on both sides. "We're okay. The ship is wonderful," the crew reports, knowing how it comforts those on the ground. "We're so proud of you. Stay safe," their loved ones reply, trying to hold back tears. As the ship coasts further away, seconds of delay become tens of seconds, then minutes. Real-time conversation gives way to recorded messages. The crew and their families exchange video letters, promises to keep writing, to keep everyone updated on milestones, to never forget one another. Each new transmission from Earth arrives with a bit more of a lag, like an echo fading with distance. The crew cherishes these missives. They save them to listen and watch again during the quiet hours of the journey, finding comfort in familiar voices. Eventually, the time comes when even these delayed conversations must cease as a regular occurrence. The ship is moving beyond the easy reach of quick communication. Earth will not vanish from their lives. There will still be periodic updates, scientific data exchanged, perhaps holiday greetings sent across the void. But it won't be the daily chat or immediate support it was in the beginning. Knowing this, the last flurry of messages are particularly heartfelt. People say everything that needs saying. Final pieces of advice, deep thanks, simple I love yous repeated many times. One by one, the screens fall silent as Earth's well-wishers conclude their farewells. The crew, now truly on their own, send one more collective message back, a poignant goodbye and a pledge to make the journey worthwhile. They know the people of Earth are listening, even if by the time the message arrives, they themselves will have moved further still. In the quiet that follows, each person aboard deals with the emotions in their own way. Some find a window and spend a while gazing at the receding Earth, committing the sight to memory until it's just a blue star in the distance. Some retreat to their cabins to open a journal or write a poem, translating feelings into words. Others seek out a friend, sitting close, maybe sharing a quiet conversation about home and hopes, or simply embracing and understanding. There might be a small ceremony held in the common area, a moment of silence, or a song sung softly by the ship's makeshift choir. Perhaps they choose a simple universal song known across cultures, a lullaby or a folk tune about home. The gentle melody fills the air, and for a moment everyone feels united in both their sadness and their optimism. Yet alongside the melancholy of departure, a quiet excitement begins to take root. They have done it. They have left Earth's bounds, something humanity has never done on this scale before. Now the endless night of interstellar space lies ahead, and with it the promise of a new dawn at journey's end. As Earth's bright glow diminishes behind them, the stars ahead seem to shine a little brighter, as if welcoming the travellers. After some time, the need for routine reasserts itself. The crew shift focus to the tasks at hand. The ship is now their world and their responsibility. Pilots and engineers check the trajectory and engine performance. Life support officers ensure all systems are stable after launch. Medics check on everyone's health. Everyone gradually moves from farewell mode into operational mode, buoyed by the training that guides them gently into this next phase. In one of the first communal meals aboard during the voyage, the crew gather to mark the occasion. Perhaps the ship's captain or an elder among them offers a few words. They raise cups of water, recycled from Earth's bounty, or glasses of juice, pressed from the ship's first harvest of fruits. A toast is made to Earth, our beloved home, and to the journey now unfolding. There is a quiet cheer, not raucous, but determined and warm. They break bread, literally eating food that was grown from earth seeds in the ship's gardens, a tangible connection to home, even as they travel far from it. The taste is reassuringly familiar. Later, when most duties are done and the ship is coasting steadily, a few crew members linger by an observation window that faces aft, back toward Earth. By now, Earth might appear as just a pale dot, if visible at all. Perhaps they can no longer distinguish it among the many stars. One person points out a particular bright star and says, "That's Sol, our sun." Indeed, their once life-dominating sun has shrunk to one star among many. Seeing this, they truly feel the distance. They take a moment to absorb it. The universe feels both vast and close in that instant. Vast, because of how far they've already gone. Close, because even across light years, they are still connected to their origin by memory and light. There is a phrase from old Earth's ocean sailors about leaving the sight of land, that once the shoreline vanishes, the ship becomes an island in a great blue sea. Here, as they leave the sight of Earth, their starship becomes an island in a cosmic ocean. The last horizon of home is behind them. Everything ahead is discovery. The soft gravity of home, that persistent emotional pull, will remain in their hearts. But physically, they are free of Earth's pull and committed to the voyage beyond. With one last glance backward and many glances forward, the crew step fully into their new life. The ship's course is set for the stars. In the stillness of space, the crew carries on, guided by faint sunlight for a while, and soon by the light of distant stars alone. The time has come to turn their attention to the future, to kindle the quiet engines that will propel them onward, deeper into the interstellar night. With the farewells behind, and Earth now a distant glimmer, attention turns fully to the ship's propulsion, the quiet engines that will carry this world across the interstellar gulf. In the days following departure, the crew gradually increase the thrust. Their vessel is equipped with engines unlike the roaring chemical rockets that launched it. These are engines designed for the long haul, emitting a steady, gentle force rather than a violent kick. Perhaps they are ion drives, sending out streams of charged particles that glow faintly as they accelerate away. Or maybe they are advanced fusion drives, where atomic nuclei unite in controlled reactions, releasing energy that pushes the ship forward with a deep, almost musical hum. Whatever the technology, the effect is a constant, patient acceleration, a push so gentle that a pen set on a table might only slowly begin to slide, yet persistent enough to, over months and years, build tremendous speed. The crew likens the engine ignition to kindling a campfire. At first, it is a small flame, just a test burn, a flicker of blue or golden light at the ship's stern, barely enough to feel. Systems are checked and rechecked, confirming all is stable. Then, incrementally, the thrust is increased. The flame strengthens and becomes a continuous burn, the way a well-tended fire becomes steady and warm. This engine fire, though, produces little heat where the crew stands. Its energy is directed outward, propelling them. What they do notice is the sound and vibration. It's subtle, a low thrum through the hull, a background lullaby that one more senses than hears. In time, it becomes part of the ambient environment, a constant companion, like the gentle purr of a ship sailing through a calm sea. Under this persistent acceleration, the ship gains velocity with each passing hour. There is no dramatic sensation of speed once they're in space. No rushing wind, no changing scenery, just the instruments that tell them how fast they are going. But occasionally, they receive reminders of their progress. A few days out, They watch the moon slip by far behind. Then they cross the orbit of Mars. Weeks later, if they peer through telescopes or use onboard sensors, they can spot the giant form of Jupiter, its swirls of cloud, and its 4 big moons visible. The trajectory might have been planned to use Jupiter's gravity as a slingshot, borrowing some of the planet's momentum to hasten the ship along. As they approach that encounter, many gather at observation ports, eager to witness the largest planet of their home system one last time. Jupiter grows from a star-like dot to a small disk with faint bands, then to a magnificent sphere dominating their view. Even from afar, its presence is awe-inspiring, a striped colossus hanging against the black backdrop. The engines temporarily ease off as the ship coasts through the planet's powerful gravitational field. They feel a slight tug as Jupiter's gravity pulls them in for a while, then flings them out on a new course, faster than before. During closest approach, the crew marvels at the sight. The great red spot, a swirling storm larger than Earth, slowly rotating. The gleam of sunlight off Jupiter's icy moons. It's a silent farewell wave from the planet, a final gift of speed from their solar system. Cameras click, sketches are made, exclamations are whispered in the observation dome. Then Jupiter recedes behind them, becoming just another point of light in the distance. The engines ignite again, and the lullaby hum resumes, a bit stronger now to continue accelerating. As months turn into a year and more, the ship traverses the outer solar system. Saturn's rings grace their telescopic views next, a delicate halo around a golden world. Though they pass at a safe distance, the crew can't help but be enchanted by the sight. Saturn, with its ethereal rings, looks like a jewel placed against the stars. Some aboard share quietly that it's comforting to see these familiar neighbours as they depart. They are not leaving in a rush, but gradually, paying respects to each landmark of home. They might not detour close to every planet, but even seeing a tiny glowing dot that is Uranus or Neptune in the far-off gloom feels like a touching goodbye. All the while, the ship's engines keep pushing, steadily building velocity. Inside, life finds a new routine under constant thrust. Because of the acceleration, there is a notion of up and down. The aft of the ship, toward the engines, effectively becomes down as the acceleration mimics gravity. It's weaker than Earth's gravity, maybe just enough to keep everyone's bodies healthy and floors and ceilings defined. As the ship speeds up, it's also gently pressing everyone towards what was once the back wall, now effectively a floor. The crew have adapted to this. Their living spaces and equipment are designed for it. Plants grow in planters oriented to this new gravity. Water in cups now has a slight weight and pools at the bottom as it would on Earth. It gives a sense of normalcy, albeit lighter. People feel a spring in their step, as if they've all become a bit stronger or younger, moving easily under the lower gravity provided by the ship's thrust. The sound of the engines becomes a comforting constant. At night cycles, when the ship dims its lights, one might lie in bed and focus on that sound, a distant, soft whir or throb that seems to say, "We are moving, we are moving." It lulls some to sleep, much like rainfall on a roof or a fan humming in a quiet room. Parents tell their children that the sound is the heartbeat of the ship, or perhaps its purring cat. In the nursery, infants fall asleep to it, having known nothing else since they were born aboard. It's reassuring. As long as that sound is there, all is well, and the journey is progressing. Operating the engines requires steady patience from the crew. Engineers monitor fuel consumption, adjusting the flow to maintain optimal thrust. They run diagnostics on the reactor or power source regularly, ensuring nothing overheats or falters. These tasks, however, are routine by now, almost meditative. There is rarely a need for sudden adjustments. Everything happens slowly and predictably. If an engine component needs servicing, the crew plans it days or weeks in advance, carefully powering down one module at a time, so redundancy keeps the thrust continuous. It's a bit like tending a garden or a long-burning lamp, trimming and fueling it to keep the flames strong and even. As the ship's speed increases, the stars ahead ever so gradually shift in colour and position due to their motion, though the change is too faint to notice without instruments until many years have passed. The crew knows theoretically that they are covering billions of kilometres, yet subjectively, aboard the ship, each day doesn't feel dramatically different from the last. This is where their practice of patience truly becomes valuable. They celebrate small milestones to mark progress, crossing the orbit of Pluto, perhaps giving that tiny dwarf planet a final salute in the form of a named day of reflection, or reaching a certain percentage of light speed. Perhaps a display in the common area quietly updates. Distance from Earth, X billion kilometers and growing. Speed, Y km/s. Each increment is hard-won and cherished. There's poetry in this method of travel. Unlike science fiction tales of instantaneous jumps or warp drives, this real journey involves feeling every kilometre of the way. It ties the crew intimately to the scale of the universe. They accelerate gradually, feeling in tune with the ship as it gathers momentum. And one day, in the not-too-distant future, they will do the reverse. Turn the ship around and decelerate just as gently, shedding all that speed to arrive gracefully at their destination. But that is a distant chapter. For now, they revel in the slow build, the gathering of energy. The phrase propulsion that hums like a lullaby becomes an inside saying among them. Perhaps an engineer with a poetic streak coins it, and it sticks. When a child asks, "Will the engines always sound like this?" a parent smiles and says, "Yes, my love, like a lullaby carrying us through space." Musicians on board even compose ambient pieces that weave in the subtle sounds of the engines, creating gentle songs that mimic or harmonize with that ever-present background note. During off-duty hours, some crew members venture to the observation deck, which, shielded behind layers of glass and radiation protection, offers a view of the engine glow. From there, they can see the faint blue or golden exhaust trailing behind, fanning out into the darkness. It's a mesmerizing sight. The ship's own comet tail, shining as a promise that they are moving, making headway. The exhaust stream eventually disperses into space, particles lost to the void. But in those first kilometers behind the ship, it forms a beautiful, ghostly plume. Watching it, one might feel a deep sense of gratitude for the science that made these engines possible, for the quiet power that pushes them along, and for the fact that such a massive journey can feel so peaceful, like drifting on a gentle current, rather than being shot from a cannon. Outside the protective bubble of the ship, the sun's light grows fainter with each passing day. By the time they have accelerated beyond the far edges of the solar system, the sun is just one bright star among many, and the warmth it gives is negligible. But inside, the engines and reactors provide all the energy needed. The crew don't feel the cold of space. They live in shirt-sleeve comfort, as if in a temperate climate at all times, thanks to the steady power output of their vessel's systems. The engines not only move them, but also supply electricity, light, heat, truly the hearth fire of this travelling home. Steadily, patiently, the generation ship picks up speed, until even the fastest Earth probes of the past would seem slow in comparison. It may take years to reach that velocity, but time is something the travellers accept. They live their lives as this acceleration happens in the background. Children grow from toddlers to teens as the stars outside slowly shift. Farmers harvest crops under the glow of LED suns, while the real sun shrinks behind them. Astronomers aboard begin long-term observations of the destination star ahead, noticing it brighten ever so slightly as their journey brings them closer by tiny fractions each day. In all of this, the engine's lullaby hum is the constant backdrop to every scene. It's the sound of progress and the sound of constancy. It reminds everyone that, even while they sleep or dream, the journey continues. Now, at last, after perhaps several years, the engines have done their primary work for this phase of the voyage. The ship has reached cruising velocity, an enormous speed that will carry it across the light years. The engines may throttle back, or even enter a standby mode, set to occasional firings, to correct course, or maintain momentum. The intense period of acceleration eases. The crew floats in a quiet that feels new. Some miss the louder hum and find it a little odd how still things seem. Others relish this phase, akin to sailing with the engine off, just coasting freely. But they know that when the time comes, those engines will be kindled again to slow them for arrival. For now, they are gliding swiftly through the interstellar night, propelled by the diligent work of those quiet engines and the patience of those who tend them. The solar system behind is far distant. Ahead lies the space between stars, which they now enter fully. It is the beginning of a new chapter of the journey, the first night in the true deep of space, far from any sun's familiar light, where the starship and its people venture onward, alone but for the light of distant stars to guide them. At last, the day comes, if one can call it a day, out here, when the sun, their sun, no longer dominates the sky behind them. The generationship has slipped beyond the reach of familiar light. They have travelled so far that the warm glow that once bathed Earth is now just another star among a multitude. This is the first night of truly being in interstellar space, a night that will last for years, lit only by the distant stars and the soft illumination the travellers carry within their own world. Crossing the invisible boundary of the solar system is both momentous and quiet. There is no sharp line, no sudden change, just a gradual thinning of the solar wind, a fading of the sun's influence. The crew knows from their instruments when they pass the heliopause, that threshold where the sun's particle bubble gives way to the interstellar medium. Perhaps they mark the occasion with a small observance. In the ship's common area, people gather and someone reads a brief poem or statement about exploration and darkness. They reflect on how far they've come, billions of kilometers, beyond the orbits of all the planets, past the realm of comets that form a halo around the sun. Now they float in the space between stars, an ocean of night that only a few tiny probes from Earth have ever entered before them. Unlike those silent machines, however, they are here with eyes to see and hearts to feel this transition. In this first interstellar night, the stars have a slightly different look. Freed from the sun's neighborhood, there's even less glare and interference. The Milky Way's band glows with a delicate brilliance, a misty river of countless stars, seemingly brighter than it ever appeared from Earth. Among those stars is one particularly meaningful point of light, the destination sun they are sailing toward, still many light years ahead. To the naked eye, it looks no different from the others quite yet, just another pinprick in the starry tapestry. But knowing it's out there gives the travellers a sense of direction, a guiding star of their own. Sometimes they face the ship's forward windows that way and imagine the new world circling that distant sun, waiting for their descendants to arrive. The darkness here is profound, but not empty. There are wisps of interstellar gas and dust, but so thin that by human standards, it's a better vacuum than any laboratory could make. Occasionally, the ship's detectors register a slight uptick in cosmic rays or a shift in magnetic field, subtle signs that they're now bathing in the galaxy's broader environment rather than the sun's cocoon. These are scientific curiosities, duly noted by instruments and discussed by the crew's science team. But mostly, the void simply is, a quiet backdrop for the life contained within the ship. Inside the vessel, the first night in interstellar space feels not so different from the nights before. The gardens still glow gently under their lamps. Children still drift to sleep to the sound of lullabies, human voices singing, accompanied by the ship's soft hum. And people still gather to share stories or read under the warm light of their communal spaces. Yet there's a subtle change in awareness, a realization that now, truly, they are on their own in a vast, dark expanse. The last threads connecting them to Earth have stretched nearly to their limit. From here on, updates from home will be few and far between, arriving with significant delays, until one day, perhaps decades in the future, they may cease altogether as technology and priorities on Earth evolve. The crew have prepared for this, understanding that part of their commitment is to become self-reliant in all things, including morale and memory. Still, the knowledge that they have crossed into this new phase brings a mix of melancholy and pride. Melancholy because a chapter, the time of being within the sun's protective sphere, has closed. Pride because they have dared to venture where no community of humans has ever been before. To combat any feeling of loneliness, they remind themselves of what they carry. In the quiet of the interstellar night, one can look out a window or at a monitor feed and see the universe spread out in all directions. It can make a person feel tiny. But then, turning inward to the ship's environment, one sees the laughter of friends over a meal, rows of green plants thriving in hydroponic trays, or hears a familiar song being played on a guitar in the recreation corner. And it becomes clear that they have not truly left everything behind. They brought a whole world with them. In this self-contained oasis, there is warmth, light, and life. The void may surround them, but it has not swallowed them. They shine within it. Some nights, the crew deliberately switch off all non-essential interior lights for a short while and gather near a transparent dome or large window to stargaze. Floating there in darkness, they look out at a sky unfiltered by any atmosphere. The stars outside don't twinkle here. Twinkling is caused by air on Earth. Out here, each star is a steady gleam. In this darkness, it might feel as if they're adrift in a grand, infinite crystal sphere studded with light. A meteorite might occasionally streak far off, silently, or the ghostly ribbon of an ancient comet's tail might become visible against the starfield. They sometimes locate the faint glow of the distant sun behind them, by now just a tiny point among the myriad. When they identify it, that is the sun, our sun, so small now. The realization truly sinks in, how far they have come. Perhaps an elder or a child will voice what many feel. How incredible it is that human beings have journeyed so far from home. Stories might be told in that darkness. Stories of how ancient navigators on Earth once looked at the very same stars from deserts and oceans, dreaming of voyages. And here now, those dreams have carried them into the space between those stars. They may name this first interstellar night as a special occasion. It could become a tradition or holiday aboard ship, an anniversary to be quietly celebrated every year. They light symbolic candles or switch on little LED candles for safety, representing the inner light they carry through the outer dark. Perhaps a new song is sung, composed by someone on board, about sailing through the night and trusting the stars and each other. It is a gentle, soulful tune that children will learn and sing for years to come. Poised to continue, the generation ship and its inhabitants face forward into the deep unknown. Behind them is a faint star that once was their sun, and a pale blue dot that was Earth, now lost in that sun's glare or among countless points of light. Ahead lies a journey that will outlast any individual among the current crew. But that is the nature of this odyssey. They always knew it. They find comfort in knowing that even if the night around them is vast, it is not empty of meaning because they carry meaning with them. Each act of kindness on board, each new skill learned, each child born and raised, these are little stars that light their way internally. In this darkness, they are not lost. They are guided by the collective knowledge and purpose that set them on this path. The maps of the stars are encoded in their navigation system, and the maps of human experience, our art, wisdom, and history, are kept in their libraries and minds. If doubt ever creeps in, they need only remember the lanterns of memory they talked about, the shining examples and aspirations of those who came before, to remind them why they venture on. And so the ship sails on through the cosmic night. The first night becomes the second, then the third, and eventually the darkness is simply the backdrop of daily life. The crew lives their lives. They maintain the ship, tend the gardens, educate the young, celebrate festivals, dream dreams. The stars outside change slowly, so slowly, but the people change in the usual ways. Children grow taller, friendships deepen, loved ones pass on teachings, and then eventually pass away, bequeathing the mission to the next generation. Time will pass. Generations will be born who never saw Earth, for whom that pale blue dot is just a story their elders tell, almost like a myth. But those elders, some of whom stood at the windows on this first night in the dark, will make sure the knowledge isn't lost. They will teach the children to look out at the stars with curiosity, not fear. To feel that even in the emptiness, they are connected to something, to their ancestors back on Earth, to the future that awaits at journey's end, and to the universe itself. On this first interstellar night, as the crew settles into sleep, perhaps some feel a slight unease, an ancient instinct stirring in the face of the boundless unknown. But then the familiar, gentle sounds of their ship soothe them. A soft tune might be playing on someone's harmonica down the hall. The ventilation system sighs steadily. The structure makes a faint creak as it cools in the shadow of sunlight. These are the sounds of home now, sounds of life persisting in the dark. Cradled by them, one by one, the travellers drift off into dreams. And what dreams? Some may dream of Earth, of rain on green leaves, of waves on a shore. Others may dream of the world they will one day reach, an imagined sunrise over alien mountains, or meeting their descendants under a strange new sky. Still others dream simply of stars and voyage, where the ship feels like a carriage carried by the night wind. When they awaken, it will be to another morning of their journey, another step farther from the sun. The view outside will be the same star-studded darkness, but inside the ship there will be light, breakfast cooking, children playing, the normalcy of life. The void is vast, but they are not afraid. They have each other, they have a purpose, and they carry the light of human spirit like a glowing lantern in the night. Thus, in the silent communion of that first interstellar night, they find peace. The void accepts them, and they embrace the void, not as nothingness, but as the space in which their future lies. With hearts full of hope and eyes turned toward the faint beacon of their destination, they are poised to continue this great journey. And so they do, onward into the dark, carrying the whisper of Earth across the stars, believing that one day, far ahead, a new dawn will greet their descendants on another world, made possible by all these nights of patient travel. In the meantime, they live each day fully aboard their travelling world, writing the story of humanity among the stars, one gentle night at a time. Dawn comes without a sunrise, but it comes gently all the same. High above the sleeping habitats, panels of golden light begin to glow in a slow imitation of early morning. Each minute, the illumination grows brighter, as if a hidden sun were rising behind an artificial sky. The light is soft and amber at first, spreading across the curved inner walls of the vessel. It touches the communal garden domes and quiet corridors with a tender glow, stirring life within without a single harsh glare. The effect is subtle but sure. A new day is beginning in this sealed world between the stars. In the private quarters and shared sleeping bays, people wake gradually to this gentle dawn. There are no jarring alarms echoing through the halls, only the increasing radiance and a softly chiming morning melody. A faint sequence of notes, part birdsong, part wind chime, drifts through the air, quiet enough to blend into dreams before drawing sleepers to waking. With slow breaths and calm movements, the passengers open their eyes and stretch, bodies attuned to the rhythm of these simulated days. Parents murmur morning greetings to children who rub their eyes in the warm light, and friends exchange silent nods as the glow around them intensifies. Throughout the ship, the air itself begins to shift as morning comes. The environmental systems subtly lift the temperature a few degrees, banishing the slight chill of night. Circulating fans stir a mild breeze down the hallways, the closest thing to a dawn wind in this enclosed universe. In the hydroponic gardens, droplets of condensation release and fall like tiny dewdrops, a deliberate touch to mimic the fresh damp of an earthly early hour. This shipboard weather is carefully orchestrated, a microclimate that changes with the time of day, keeping minds and bodies anchored to familiar cycles. Even in the depths of space, one can feel a cool morning draft and smell a hint of moisture in the air, as if the ship itself were breathing alongside its passengers. As the lights brighten toward their daytime hue, the ship's inhabitants begin their routines. Some quietly roll up their sleeping mats or tidy their small bunks, taking care not to disturb the lingering tranquility. Others don simple clothes and step out into the corridors, drawn by the aroma of breakfast or the first tasks of the day. The hallways are softly lit now in gold and honey tones, revealing murals along the walls, painted scenes of open skies, distant mountains, and oceans remembered. Under these gentle lights and painted horizons, Faces carry peaceful, unhurried expressions. It is morning on the ship, crafted by human ingenuity and care, and it sets a calm tone for everything that follows. In those first waking minutes, conversation remains hushed. A few early risers exchange murmured greetings in the galley where the day's first meal is prepared. Steam rises from mugs of herbal tea brewed from onboard herbs, the scents of mint and chamomile drifting through the air. The warmth of cups in hand and soft laughter shared over breakfast bring life to the communal kitchen. All the while, the illumination continues to strengthen toward full day, bright but never harsh, like a late morning sun on Earth. In one quiet corner, an elderly passenger closes her eyes and tilts her face toward the light, recalling the feel of a real sunrise on her skin many years ago. The glow on her face may be artificial, but the comfort it brings is real. From the observation port at the ship's bow, one can see the truth of this dawnless morning. Beyond the thick glass lies the endless night of space, a black expanse spangled with distant stars. There is no rising sun outside, no horizon for light to crest. Yet inside, dawn has broken. The inhabitants carry on with their morning as confidently as villagers under a blue sky. The contrast is quietly astonishing. Outside, eternal night. Inside, a warm new day made anew each cycle. Thus, the generationship sustains its people, not just with technology, but with an intimate daily miracle: daybreak in darkness. Bathed in the growing light, the ship slowly comes alive with activity. In the main atrium, which serves as a town square beneath an array of brightening panels, a few residents practice morning stretches. Their movements are slow and fluid, each pose a calm greeting to the day. Nearby, a caretaker checks a console readout for air composition and temperature, ensuring the morning adjustments are just right. Children shuffle past on their way to help with simple chores, feeding the fish in the aquaponics tank or gathering ripe vegetables for breakfast, their yawns turning into smiles as they wake. Every action is unrushed. The entire scene unfolds with the same steady patience that defines the voyage itself. It is a morning like countless others, gentle, deliberate, and full of quiet promise. When the clock marks the official start of day shift, the ship's lighting reaches its soft, noontime brilliance. By now, the difference between this man-made morning and a natural one is almost imperceptible to the senses. The inhabitants feel alert and refreshed, aligned with a cycle that keeps their circadian rhythms in balance. The psychological weight of endless space beyond the walls is lightened by the simple comfort of routine. Day has come, and as this new day gets underway, its first light glimmers across green leaves and glistening crops, beckoning the crew toward the nourishing tasks of the gardens. Deep within the ship lies a sanctuary of green, under broad-spectrum lamps that mimic the full embrace of sunlight. Plants thrive in carefully arranged tiers and rows. Vegetables grow lush and tall in nutrient-rich channels, their roots bathing in flowing water instead of soil. Dwarf fruit trees stand in large planters along the paths, their leaves glossy under the artificial sun. Vines of beans and cucumbers twine upward on trellises, creating living walls of greenery. This is the ship's garden, a hanging Eden suspended in metal, where nature is tended with devotion. Each morning after dawn, crew members wander into this verdant space, drawn by the scent of leaves and the gentle warmth in the air. Tending the garden is both duty and comfort. The growers move slowly among the plants, pruning here, watering there, footsteps soft on the damp walkways. They wear simple aprons and carry baskets for the day's harvest. Crisp lettuce, ripe tomatoes, sprigs of herbs, and perhaps a handful of bright peppers or strawberries. Every motion is careful and calm. A young man lifts a cluster of green beans gently from its vine, mindful not to snap the stem. Nearby, an older woman in soil-stained gloves inspects a citrus sapling and smiles at the delicate white blossoms that promise future oranges. The work is quiet and patient, accompanied by the trickle of circulating water and the faint hum of ventilators. In the background, one grower hums an old lullaby as she checks a row of spinach, her melody mingling with the soft rustle of leaves. This hydroponic haven is more than a source of food. It is the emotional heart of the ship. The moment one steps into the garden, the air changes. It grows more humid and alive with the green scent of chlorophyll and damp earth. Light here feels gentler, filtered through foliage that casts dappled patterns on the floor. For the inhabitants of the ship, these sensations are a balm. Amid metal corridors and recycled air, the presence of thriving plants is a bridge to the natural world they left behind. A grandfather kneels by a bed of carrots, closing his eyes as he inhales the earthy smell of leaves and wet soil, memories of distant forests drifting through his mind. Around him, the garden softly breathes, leaves transpiring tiny clouds of moisture that catch the light like morning mist. Among the greenery, small signs of a balanced ecosystem can be found. A honeybee brought aboard to pollinate the fruit trees drifts from a lemon blossom to a pepper flower. It hovers, then disappears into a cluster of blooms, carrying the promise of new fruit. Near a shallow pond at one corner, a few fish glide through clear water, part of an aquaponic system where fish waste nourishes the plants and the plants keep the water pure. Everything is interconnected. These tiny creatures, the bees and fish, live out their quiet lives aboard just as the humans do, each playing a part in sustaining the whole. The soft buzz of the bee and the gentle ripple of water as a fish breaks the surface are subtle reminders that this engineered place is truly alive. The garden is arranged in terraces along the curving inner hull, resembling the legendary hanging gardens of old myth. Some planters are suspended high overhead, letting vines trail down like living curtains. Others line the walls at different levels, so as one walks through, it feels as if the plants are all around, floating at varying heights. Tendrils of green dangle from above, and clusters of cherry tomatoes peek out from hanging baskets. The effect is enchanting, an oasis of abundance mid-voyage. Over time, the crew has added personal touches among the crops. A wooden bench, carved from reclaimed shipping crates, sits beneath a dwarf apple tree. Painted stones label each herb bed with names like basil and thyme. Sun catchers made by children hang from a ceiling pipe, scattering rainbows when the light hits them. The garden is functional, yes, but it is also lovingly tended as a communal creation, full of small comforts and handmade charm. Working here offers a special kind of solace. Many crew members find reasons to spend time among the plants beyond their assigned shifts. A teacher might bring a small group of children in to study biology by gently touching a flower petal or observing how a bean tendril curls around its support. A cook passes through to see what produce is ripe, planning the day's meals around the harvest. Even those not on duty often wander in during free moments, simply to bask in the atmosphere. It's not uncommon to find someone sitting quietly on the bench under the apple tree, eyes closed and face relaxed, listening to the faint trickle of the irrigation system, as if it were a forest brook. In the embrace of green leaves and growing things, anxiety fades. The growers notice this. They see the relaxed smiles and hear the unhurried breathing of those who step inside. By tending the plants, they are also tending to the community's well-being. In one corner, an orchard section holds treasures that ripen slowly but reward the entire ship when ready. Compact pear and apple trees stand in tubs, their branches carefully supported to bear fruit in low gravity. Once or twice a year, they produce a modest crop of crisp apples or soft, golden pears. When this happens, it feels like a holiday. The news spreads quickly that fruit has been picked. People gather eagerly but politely, each person receiving perhaps a single precious apple, often to be shared slice by slice with family. Biting into that fruit, juices bursting with remembered sweetness, is a moment of pure joy that links everyone to the earth they left behind. The growers often save a few of the finest fruits to press into the hands of the eldest passengers, those who still remember terrestrial orchards under open skies and know how meaningful that taste can be. Such gifts nourish the soul as much as the body. Throughout the hydroponic bay, there is a rhythm to the labor that feels almost like prayer. Trimming, planting, watering, harvesting. Each action is deliberate and respectful. Nothing is wasted. Wilted leaves and pruned stems are collected for compost, destined to become nutrients for new growth. The crew speak in low tones, or not at all, as though they stand in a sacred grove. Occasionally, a soft laugh or exclamation of delight is heard, perhaps when a child discovers a hidden strawberry, or when a new seedling unfurls a fresh green leaf. These gentle sounds only add to the warmth of the space. Everyone here understands they are sustaining more than crops. They are sustaining hope, continuity, and a living piece of earth carried through the cosmos. By late morning, baskets are filled and chores completed. The growers wipe their brows and take a last, satisfied look at the green expanse, pleased with the thriving order of it. Leaves have been washed in soft recycled water, their surfaces gleaming. Nutrient tanks have been checked and topped up, pumps quietly humming to circulate life-giving fluid. A few new seeds have been planted in the nursery trays, destined to replace older plants in time. With the work done for now, the garden's lights shift to a brighter noon setting, signalling the plant's most vigorous part of the day. As the crew members leave carrying fresh produce for lunch and supper, they take with them the calm this verdant place imparts. In the quiet that remains among the foliage, droplets of water cling to leaves before falling back into clear pools below. For every drop that falls, another will be drawn up again. A promise that the life here is part of a continuous cycle. The water that nourishes these gardens will return, pure and ready to feed green life once more, just as the lives aboard are sustained by cycles unbroken and ever returning. Every drop of water aboard the ship is on an endless journey. In this self-contained world, water moves through a careful cycle just as it once did on Earth. Only now the loop is tight and deliberate. What was steam yesterday becomes drinking water today. The moisture exhaled in each breath, the beads of sweat from a hard day's work, the condensation that gathers on cool metal walls at night. All of it is gathered, purified, and returned to use. There are pipes and filters and gently humming machines hidden behind the walls that perform this constant miracle. To the people on the ship, it feels almost like a living process. They know that the water in their cup has likely been part of countless cups before, that it has nourished their gardens and their bodies many times over. The continuity of water is a promise. As long as the cycle holds unbroken, life can continue, unthirsty and clean, no matter how far from any natural river they roam. Daily life aboard quietly honors this cycle. Each morning, a technician in the environmental control room makes her rounds with methodical devotion. She reads the water levels in storage tanks and checks the recycling system's gauges, logging the vital numbers in the communal ledger. If a filter shows the slightest clog or a valve drifts off its mark, she attends to it on the spot, almost as one tending a sacred fire. This routine of maintenance has become a ritual for the crew who oversee it. They take pride in keeping the ship's rivers running clear, knowing every crewmate depends on their diligence. Sometimes a few others will pause by the control room during these morning checks, just to hear the reassuring report. All systems normal, reservoirs full. It is a small ceremony of comfort, a confirmation that the lifeblood of the ship continues to flow in balance. Water aboard is not merely hidden in pipes and tanks. It also graces the open spaces of the ship in gentle ways. In the central garden, a narrow brook winds through the greenery, a simple loop of water driven by a quiet pump. The brook's burbling adds peaceful music to the background of daily work. Crew members often pause at its edge, watching tiny ripples dance over pebbles. They listen to the soft babble that echoes the streams of earth. Children float little boats made from leaves down this waterway, giggling as the boats drift along before being caught and sailed again. To them, the closed circuit of the brook is pure play and wonder, though they gradually learn its deeper meaning. This water always comes back. The brook is a living symbol within their metal world, a promise that even as they travel far from any natural ocean or rain cloud, the essence of those things is carried with them. There are moments when the water cycle becomes visible to all, as a gentle reminder of renewal. Occasionally, the gardeners schedule a rain inside the orchard dome, releasing a fine mist from sprinklers high above. As droplets fall onto leaves and soil, the air fills with the petrichor of fresh rain, that beloved scent that brings back memories of green fields. Some crew members stop their tasks and tilt their heads up, eyes closed, to feel the light drizzle on their faces. It lasts only a short while before the droplets collect and flow back into the system, but the emotional effect lingers. These artificial rains are both practical, washing dust off broad leaves and nourishing roots, and ceremonial. They mark the passage of time, the changing of a crop cycle. They also offer a moment of collective pause to appreciate the closed-loop gift of water. Each person aboard has a personal relationship with water, shaped by an understanding of its preciousness. Bathing is done with careful economy. A quick rinse, a pause to soap, then a final rinse. Every drop collected to be reclaimed. Dishes are cleaned with ultrasonic wands, or a thin trickle of water, never a lavish pour. Yet no one feels deprived. Rather, they handle water with reverence. A child learns early to shut off a tap firmly and carry their cup steadily so as not to spill a single drop. Elders tell stories of rivers so wide one couldn't see the far bank, of rain that fell freely from the sky. These tales astonish the young ones, born into a world where water is measured and cherished. But there is no bitterness in the telling, only wonder, and the lesson that in their voyage, every drop is sacred. Sometimes, during communal gatherings, the crew acknowledges the water cycle in a quiet gesture of gratitude. Before a shared meal, it's not uncommon for someone to raise a clear glass of water and offer a simple toast. To the water that connects us. Everyone drinks, aware that the liquid they swallow has been part of each of them in turn. It has coursed through veins as blood, cooled brows as sweat, nourished seedlings in the garden, and now returns crystal clear in their cups. In that realization lies a profound comfort, an almost spiritual sense of unity. The water not only sustains their bodies, it binds their fates together. What one person uses today will sustain another tomorrow, generation after generation. A grandmother explains to her grandchild that the same water she drinks now might one day quench the thirst of that child's grandchildren. The little girl's eyes widen as she gazes at her cup, as if it contains magic. And in a way, it does. Throughout the voyage, the continuous cycling of water provides a steady rhythm under all other routines. There is something deeply reassuring about hearing the soft whir of a purifier at night, or seeing the moisture gauges holding steady in their green ranges. It is the pulse of the ship, a quiet heartbeat in the background of everyday life. In the hydroponics bay, the gurgle of circulating water and the drip of irrigation lines are the sounds of sustenance, as comforting as rain on a rooftop once was. If worry ever troubles a traveller in the long dark of space, they need only recall the reliability of their water cycle. It is proof that even here, far from any planet, a piece of home's stability lives on. The rivers that return each drop banish the fear of want. So long as they keep faith with their systems and with each other, nothing essential will be lost. And so, water aboard the generationship is more than a resource. It is a ritual of trust and care. By tending to it, the travellers tend to their own future. Each completed cycle, from use to reclamation to use again, is a quiet victory over the void, a renewal of their covenant with survival. In the cool, dim chambers where silver pipes snake through the hull, reclaimed water flows silently, carrying with it the stories of the crew. It whispers of yesterday's meals and tomorrow's seedlings, of tears shed and laughter shared. Every circuit it makes through the ship's veins reaffirms that life continues, unabated and resilient. As the journey presses on, these rivers that return give the crew a gentle faith. They trust that some patterns, like the flow of water, will hold steady and true, guiding them forward in a delicate, unbroken circle. In the silence of space, the generation ship turns end over end, creating by motion what it cannot draw from mass. This rotation is the source of an artificial gravity that holds everyone's feet to the floor. It is a gentle gravity, a fraction of what a planet might provide, but enough to give things weight and direction. Down is the hull beneath their feet. Up is toward the ship's central axis, where the faintest hint of weightlessness lingers. All the familiar routines of life, walking, cooking, gathering for meals, are made possible by this borrowed weight. The crew lives under an illusion of gravity, aware that it is a conjured force, yet grateful for the normalcy it grants in an otherwise weightless void. The corridors of the ship curve softly upward in the distance, following the circular shape of the habitat ring. Walking through them, one can sense the curvature of this world. The horizon is not flat, but bends overhead until floor becomes wall, then ceiling, then floor again, far across the wheel. If someone stands in a long corridor and looks ahead, they might glimpse others, seemingly above them, further along the curve. Fellow travellers walking on what, from here, looks like the ceiling. This strange architecture initially unsettled the first generation of voyagers. Many remember those early days, feeling dizzy as their eyes tried to reconcile hallways that arched above and a sky that was really just more floor beyond a bend. But over time, brain and body learned to accept the gentle curve as normal. Now, for those born on the ship, the sight of a corridor rising overhead is as unremarkable as a blue sky once was on Earth. Gravity on the ship is a careful compromise. The rotation is calibrated to simulate a comfortable pull without causing disorientation. It isn't a full Earth gravity, perhaps a bit less, but it keeps bones and muscles strong enough. People move with an easy lightness. Heavy loads are a little simpler to carry, and each step has a subtle spring. A child might drop a toy and notice it falls just a bit slower than it would on Earth. An older crew member exercising finds that while they still work to stay fit, their joints ache less under this kinder weight. In this way, the borrowed gravity is a small gift to the aging as much as to the young. It preserves health over the years, preventing the worst of the muscle and bone loss true weightlessness would bring. The ship's doctors keep close watch on how bodies adapt, pleased to find that life remains robust under these conditions. In some ways, the human body seems perfectly content with a slightly lighter load, almost relieved to carry a gentler burden while still being grounded. Despite its gentleness, this gravity has peculiarities that everyone comes to understand. Because the world is rotating, anything that moves freely veers in a curved path. A tossed ball never flies straight. It drifts to the side in a graceful arc, so children learn to adjust their aim, giggling at the ship's invisible trick. Water poured into a glass tends to swirl. Even flames in the galley's stove flicker off-center, all tugged by the spinning frame of reference. At first, such effects caused spills and surprises. A newcomer might set a cup down carelessly, only to have it tip over under an unexpected force. But with time, instincts adjust. Without thinking, people lean ever so slightly when running down a corridor, countering a barely perceptible Coriolis pull. A crew member, sliding a tool across a table, gives it a tiny extra push so it travels straight. These compensations become second nature, a quiet, ongoing conversation between their bodies and the ship's motion. The design of living spaces takes this borrowed gravity into account, offering subtle help to those still finding their space legs. Floors have a mild spring and gentle texture, providing grip and cushioning underfoot. The corridors and rooms lack sharp corners. Edges are rounded, and some walls softly padded, so a stumble results in a soft bump rather than a bruise. Handrails line the longer hallways. These are remnants from the early days, when people feared sudden weightlessness, or simply needed the reassurance of something to hold. Now the rails are used mostly by playful children, swinging themselves along in low-G games. Workers carrying heavy equipment also appreciate the extra stability they provide. Lighting panels are set into ceiling curves so that no harsh shadows disorient the eye. Even the lighting is gentle and even, reinforcing the sense of a consistent down and up. There is a place in the ship where the illusion of weight almost disappears. The central axis. Here, at the hub of the rotating world, centrifugal force dwindles to nearly nothing. Crew members occasionally venture to this spine of the ship for maintenance or to transit between sections. The transition is gradual. Climbing a ladder toward the axis, each rung upward brings a lighter step. Arms and legs stretch more easily, bodies lengthening as the pull of gravity weakens. By the time one reaches the core, they can float freely. The experience of microgravity is both strange and delightful. Some describe it as entering a sacred space of silence and stillness, where for a brief time the constant pull of down no longer exists. Tools tethered to belts bob gently, and a single push sends a person gliding silently along the axial passage. Work here requires patience and skill. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction that can set an untethered body slowly spinning. The crew move with slow, deliberate grace when weightless, mindful of how easy it is to lose orientation in the absence of gravity. For the children, occasional visits to the axis are adventures recounted with shining eyes. They return to the spin gravity with cheeks flushed and hair still drifting in wisps, chattering about how they could somersault in midair or touch opposite walls with a mere push. These outings are supervised, rare treats, perhaps part of a science lesson or a reward for helping with a chore. Though the adults smile at the youngsters' excitement, they too feel a quiet awe each time they ascend to that floating realm. It reminds them of the fragility of their situation. Gravity here is an illusion sustained by motion and machinery. Stepping into weightlessness is like peeking behind the curtain of their everyday reality. It is a gentle nudge that what feels like solid ground is actually a marvel of engineering and balance. Most days, the artificial gravity is taken for granted. People stroll the corridors, tend the gardens, and gather for meals without giving a thought to the forces that enable each step. Yet in the hush of late evening, when many are asleep, a few might lie awake and sense the faintest tremor of the ship's rotation. It's a subtle thing, perhaps an imagined vibration, or the whisper of air always circulating in a gentle curve. But it's there for those who listen. In those moments, they become acutely aware of the great mechanical planet they inhabit. This ship spins through the void, carrying its little ocean of air and its patch of gravity on a journey with no nearby sun. The weight they feel is borrowed, yes, but it grants them the comfort of normal lives. It keeps their minds anchored against the dizzying truth of space. From time to time, the engineering crew runs quiet tests on the spin systems, the motors, bearings, and thrusters that keep their world turning. These checks are done without fanfare and pass mostly unnoticed by everyone else. Occasionally, a subtle adjustment is needed, a tiny boost in spin if instruments show the rate has slowed a fraction, or a gentle brake if it ever grows too fast. These changes are made in increments so fine that no one feels the shift. At most, a hanging plant or pendant lamp might sway almost imperceptibly as the rotation is tuned. Such moments spark gentle curiosity. If someone sees that faint swaying, they might catch a companion's eye and exchange a knowing smile. "Spin check," they whisper. It's reassuring to know that those tending the ship's gravity do so with such care that their work is nearly invisible. Life under borrowed gravity has shaped the culture aboard. It's given them metaphors and little jokes. A crew member finding their feet has extra meaning here, and newcomers are teased affectionately about being spin dizzy until they acclimate. Each year, they celebrate the anniversary of the day the ship first spun up to create gravity, marked with gratitude and playful low-G dances where everyone bounces a little higher than usual. In daily language, to keep your feet on the ground is said with a smile, knowing the ground itself is an illusion. This humour is gentle and inclusive, a way of saying, we all learn to walk in this strange place, and we're in it together. In quieter moments, some reflect on what it means to live with invented gravity. On any world, gravity is a given, an unthinking constant that ties people to land. Here, it is a precious convenience, engineered and maintained. It teaches them not to take even the floor beneath their feet for granted. Every now and then, an elder will gently remind a restless youngster racing down a corridor, "Walk kindly on this ship. We walk on a gift." The youngster may not fully grasp it then, but one day, perhaps when floating weightless at the axis, or when sensing that subtle tremor underfoot, they will. and they will step a little more lightly, honouring the weight they borrow, as respectfully as one would honour a generous host. All around the ship, a network of quiet professions sustains the journey. These are roles seldom in the spotlight, yet they form the backbone of life among the stars. Each person in these jobs works with steady dedication, ensuring that the fabric of shipboard society remains whole and harmonious. They are stewards of systems, nurturers of life, keepers of knowledge and well-being. Though their tasks may seem routine or humble, there is deep respect for their quiet expertise. It's often said aboard that the voyage would not last a single week without the silent vigilance of these caretakers. In the early hours, one might find a systems steward making rounds through the sleeping corridors, tablet in hand. This crew member oversees the ship's infrastructure, air circulation, temperature control, the hundreds of sensors monitoring everything from hull pressure to oxygen content. Moving with practiced calm, they check readouts on wall panels and listen for any odd hum in the machinery. If a filter is starting to clog or a thermostat drifts off mark, the steward notices and corrects it long before it becomes a problem. They carry a quiet authority. When a steward pauses at a junction and tilts their head as if listening to the walls, others know they're tuning into the heartbeat of the ship. Most aboard rarely think about air or water systems from day to day, and that is a testament to these stewards. By catching issues early and fine-tuning the environment, they ensure comfort and safety remain simply a given. A perfect day for a steward is when nothing at all of note happens. Their greatest success is a peaceful, uneventful ship. Elsewhere, in the green glow of the hydroponics bay, growers begin their careful work. These are the gardeners and farmers of the void, tending the plants that feed both body and spirit. In the quiet morning, a grower kneels beside a tray of seedlings, inspecting tiny leaves for any sign of mildew or wilt. Another prunes a vine heavy with cherry tomatoes, humming under her breath in the humid air. They log each crop's progress, measuring water pH and adjusting nutrient mixes with the precision of a chemist and the love of a farmer. The growers know every plant by sight, which lettuce bed was seeded last week, which orange tree is about to blossom. Through their hands passes the cycle of food and oxygen that keeps the community alive. Every mealtime carries the imprint of their efforts in each crisp salad leaf and each spoonful of herbal stew. But the growers rarely seek praise. They find it in the quiet satisfaction of a healthy harvest, in seeing a tired crewmate relax among the greenery they've nurtured. Their patience is a force that sustains the ship season after season, as steady as the growth of a young sapling. Not far from the gardens, the recyclers perform equally vital work in modest workshops and utility bays. These crew members specialize in reclaiming and reusing every material possible. Dressed in neat coveralls, a recycler might spend an afternoon at a workbench, carefully disassembling a broken appliance, sorting its components into bins for metal, plastic, and circuitry. Nothing is discarded without scrutiny. In another section, a team oversees the bioreactor that turns kitchen scraps and organic waste into rich compost for the gardens. They monitor gauges and adjust the mix of microbes, taking pride in how yesterday's wilted leaves become tomorrow's fertile soil. The recyclers also keep watch over water purification alongside the technicians, testing samples, swapping out filter membranes, ensuring the cycles stay clean. Their mindset is one of mindful conservation. To them, a bent screw or a frayed piece of fabric isn't trash, but the seed of something new. They are inventors in their own quiet way, often devising clever repairs or repurposing items to avoid using up limited supplies. If a needed tool cannot be manufactured easily, a recycler finds a way to craft it from scavenged parts. Their creativity and diligence keep the closed loop of the ship efficient. Day by day, they turn what's used into something useful again, stitching threads of continuity through the long voyage. Up on the bridge, or sometimes in a small observation blister on the hull, the navigators keep watch over the ship's course. These men and women have a relationship with the stars that most of their crewmates glimpse only occasionally. In a dim control room lit by softly glowing screens, a navigator confirms the ship's position against distant pulsars and checks for any sign of interstellar debris ahead. On the vast majority of days, there is little to adjust. The ship glides along its planned trajectory, steady and true. Yet the navigator's role is far from idle. They regularly compare the actual flight path to the intended route, making minute thruster corrections to counter any subtle drift. They update star charts as the constellations shift ever so slowly over the years, ensuring that future generations will have accurate maps to follow. Most importantly, they remain the vigilant watchers of the unknown. If a stray piece of cosmic rubble or an unexpected anomaly appears on the long-range scanners, it will likely be a navigator who first spots the blip and quietly sounds the alert. In the soft hush of their station, a navigator might murmur star coordinates or mark that another few million kilometers have passed. Their vigilance is a source of comfort for everyone sleeping in the habitation ring, trusting that a careful eye is always on the cosmic road ahead. Through long nights and solitude, the navigators guide the ship forward with patient diligence. Perhaps the most subtle of all are those who tend to the crew's social and emotional well-being, the caretakers of calm. These include counselors and mediators, teachers, event organizers, anyone who helps ease tensions and foster community. One might be an elder who has become an unofficial counselor. In a quiet corner of the common room, he listens to a crewmate who feels anxious, offering understanding and gentle advice from years of experience. Another is a trained mental health officer who schedules private chats with each crew member now and then, making sure worries are voiced and shared rather than left to fester. There are also those who take on the role of cultural caretakers, individuals who arrange the little celebrations and gatherings that give everyone psychic breathing room, from movie nights to poetry readings to game tournaments. When minor conflicts arise, as they inevitably do, even in a well-knit community, these calm keepers step in softly. They mediate a dispute over a misunderstanding in the chore schedule or soothe hurt feelings with fairness and empathy. Just as a systems steward monitors the air and water, the caretakers of calm monitor the social atmosphere. They can sense when someone is withdrawing or when fatigue is fraying tempers, and they gently intervene, perhaps by suggesting a break, a cup of tea, or a quiet heart-to-heart talk between those at odds. Their efforts are often invisible to the larger group, but the harmony of shipboard life is their quiet handiwork. Together, these quiet professionals weave a safety net of tranquility and order. They seldom seek recognition, yet the community quietly acknowledges their importance. On a ship where every person wears many hats, those who take on these steady roles become beloved in subtle ways. A nod of respect in the corridor, a seat saved for them at dinner, a grateful mention in a toast at a festival. These small gestures show the crew's silent gratitude. It is understood that their constancy allows everyone else the freedom to dream, work, and live with confidence. In the soft hum of the generationship's everyday life, the influence of the stewards, growers, recyclers, navigators, and caretakers of calm is everywhere. It's in the fresh air and wholesome meals, the repaired tools and accurate star charts, the peacefully resolved quarrels, and the contentment that fills a quiet evening. They are the unsung heroes of the long road, carrying an ethos of patience and care that keeps hope alive as the ship sails on. Class is in session, though there are no ringing bells and no rush in this school among the stars. Education aboard the generationship unfolds at a gentle pace, shaped by the long journey itself. In a bright corner of the ship's library, a handful of children sit around a low table as an elder unrolls a large hand-drawn star map. The lesson this morning is equal parts astronomy and storytelling. With a patient voice, the elder points to a tiny mark on the map, their destination star, and recounts how their great-grandparents first charted the course to reach it. The children listen wide-eyed, not because a test will follow, but out of genuine wonder. They have grown up knowing that they themselves, or perhaps their children, will one day stand under the light of that far-off sun. Every lesson is infused with that sense of purpose and continuity. Aboard this ship, learning is a lifelong endeavor, woven naturally into daily life. There is a structured curriculum to ensure each generation masters essential knowledge: mathematics, language, the biology of their ecosystem, the engineering of their home. But teaching here is different from the hurried classrooms of old Earth. It is slower, more hands-on, and deeply personal. A teenager might spend the afternoon apprenticed to a life support technician, carefully cleaning and reassembling a water filter under gentle guidance, turning textbook science into tangible skill. Younger children might learn their letters by painting labels for the garden's herb pots, blending creativity with practical contribution. Every exercise has a purpose in the community, giving even the smallest task a sense of meaning. The pace is unpressured. If it takes an extra month for one child to grasp orbital mechanics, or for another to confidently mend a frayed wiring circuit, so be it. Time is one resource they have in abundance. Patience infuses every lesson, as naturally as breathing. Craftsmanship lies at the heart of their education. The ship's youth are taught to work with their hands as much as with their minds. In a small workshop, students gather around a mentor to learn soldering by fixing a broken circuit board. In the textile nook, a grandmother teaches a pair of youngsters how to stitch up a worn coverall, each child guiding a needle with absorbed concentration. In the hydroponics bay, a science lesson becomes a gardening session. Students measure the pH of nutrient water and gently replant seedlings, recording the data in notebooks. This practical learning not only builds competence, but also instills pride in maintaining their world. Children grow up knowing how to bake bread from ship-grown grain, how to calculate an airlock's pressure tolerance, and even how to strum a guitar and sing the old Earth songs that lift spirits. Academic theory and vocational skill are interwoven, each reinforcing the other. An arithmetic lesson on ratios might involve adjusting the mixture of nutrients for a tank of algae, while a history discussion could spring from reading the ship's original charter or a founder's diary. By engaging head, hands, and heart together, the teachers ensure that learning is never abstract or sterile. It is as alive as the seedlings in the nursery and as concrete as the metal of the hull. Equally important is the cultivation of wonder. Beyond skills and facts, the educators aim to kindle curiosity about the universe and their unique journey through it. On certain evenings, lights are dimmed in the observation dome and families gather while a navigator uses a laser pointer to trace constellations on the crystal window. Children press their faces to the thick glass, marveling at the dense spill of stars. They learn the names of nebulae and galaxies. Each name carries a story, perhaps of discovery or a myth from Earth. Such moments are formative. A young boy might leave the dome whispering that he wants to become a navigator one day, his eyes still shining with starlight. A girl, having peered at the Andromeda galaxy through the ship's telescope, might decide to write a poem about it for her literature lesson. Even confined to a vessel they cannot leave, the cosmos becomes their vast, endless field trip, full of mysteries to explore through books, simulations, and imagination. Lessons in community and ethics are woven gently into everyday schooling. From an early age, children are taught about the delicate balance that sustains them, how every person, every plant, every task is part of an interdependent web. A simple assignment for 7-year-olds might be to help distribute the day's harvest from the garden to each family kitchen, teaching responsibility and the joy of giving service. Older students might have a guided debate about how to fairly allocate an unexpected surplus of energy, or how to adjust routines if a critical system falters. Exercises that impart practical wisdom about fairness and adaptation. Through such discussions and experiences, they absorb the values of cooperation and respect for limits. Concepts like enough and for the common good are not just abstract ideas in a civics book. They are living principles illustrated every day. An elder might share a story about a time, early in the voyage, when everyone had to ration water during a recycling system repair, and how the community pulled together uncomplainingly. These anecdotes become parables in the ship's living curriculum, teaching the young how to be good stewards of their tiny, shared world. Without a strict divide between school and life, the young take on their roles in the community naturally. By the time a boy or girl reaches their later teens, they have spent years shadowing different mentors, helping in the bakery before dawn, assisting medics in the infirmary, tuning a small engine under an engineer's watchful eye, or recording oral history from a grandparent. There is no single exam or graduation day that thrusts them into adulthood. Instead, one day they realize they are already contributing as an integral member of the crew. Perhaps there is a quiet ceremony to acknowledge this coming of age, not a formal commencement, but a gathering where the young person stands among their elders and speaks of what work calls to them. A beloved mentor places a hand on their shoulder and welcomes them as a colleague. The crowd might break into gentle applause or a familiar ship folk song. It's understated, yet deeply felt. Each well-prepared youth stepping into adult responsibility is another thread secured in the tapestry of their long road. Education on the generationship is, above all, an education in patience and hope. The children learn that they are bridges between generations past and future. In their studies and play, in every skill they master, and every new question they ask, lives the promise that this great journey will continue. Each equation solved, each seedling tended, each star mapped is another tiny step toward a destiny none of them will see but all believe in. And the teachers, who may be parents or specialists or any crew member with knowledge to share, take joy in this slow, steady unfolding. They know they are planting seeds they themselves might not live to see bloom, yet they are content. In the careful, unhurried nurturing of each young mind, they are laying the groundwork for the day, still centuries ahead, when a descendant of these children will walk on a new world's soil, carrying with them the lessons of patience, craft, and wonder that were cultivated here, in the quiet classrooms of the stars. Mid-journey, the ship's calendar fills with its own special days, festivals of passage that mark time and continuity in the void. Some are familiar, like birthdays, celebrated with as much joy as resources allow. Others are unique to this travelling world: seed days, aphelion feasts, and the quiet rites of small continuities that give rhythm to life aboard. A birthday on the generationship is a heartfelt occasion. In a community this close-knit, each person's birth is a gift to all. When a child turns 5 or 10, or an elder reaches a meaningful age, the whole corridor might be strung with handmade banners drawn in bright inks. Neighbours gather in the common room, bringing treats conjured from precious stores. Perhaps a small cake sweetened with a spoon of honey from the beehive, or a batch of cookies sprinkled with a rare pinch of cinnamon saved for the day. There is singing, softly, out of respect for nearby sleepers if the hour is late, and laughter that echoes down the hall. Gifts are simple, often crafted from recycled materials: a knitted sweater from unraveled yarn, a toy carved from spare wood, a poem inscribed in flowing script. These humble offerings carry great meaning in their creativity and the time spent to make them. A birthday on the ship isn't about extravagance. It's a celebration of continuance, a thankful observance that one more year has been added to a life, and by extension, to the community's shared journey. Just as cherished are the seed days. One such day comes at the start of each planting cycle in the hydroponic gardens. On that morning, children and adults alike gather among the greenery. A selection of carefully saved heirloom seeds, tomatoes, beans, maybe a new fruit brought out from deep storage, is ready to be sown. Each child is given a few seeds nestled in their palm. With guidance from a grower, they press them into the moist growing beds. There is a sense of ceremony in the air. The act of planting is done in unison, hands patting earth gently over seeds as someone counts softly to 10. Then everyone stands quietly for a moment, imagining the life that will sprout from those tiny grains. These seed days have become a ritual of renewal. They remind the travelers that even as they voyage far from any natural spring, they carry the essence of spring within their hull. Later, when the first green shoots emerge, the children will run to see whose plant pokes through first, each feeling a personal connection to the miracle of growth. The journey itself has its milestones that call for commemoration. There is the aphelion feast, named for the term when an orbiting object is farthest from its sun. Long ago, when the ship reached the midpoint between Sol and the destination star, the farthest point from any sun that these travelers had ever been, the crew held a great feast. It was a one-time celebration, but its memory lives on and is honored annually as Deep Space Day. On that day each year, the normal routine softens. Work shifts end a little early. In the galley, cooks pull out a few tucked-away luxuries, perhaps a jar of spiced preserves or a batch of mushrooms carefully grown for the occasion, to create a meal that breaks the monotony of staple foods. The whole community gathers under the central dome. They set up long tables adorned with drawings of stars made by the children. Everyone shares food and stories, reflecting on how far they have come. They remember the original aphelion feast, when the void around them was vast, and all were aware of standing at the deepest, most solitary point of the journey. Now, each Deep Space Day, they light candles and give thanks for another year together, drifting steadily onward. It's a time to reassure themselves that even in the emptiest stretch of the voyage, they found reason to rejoice, and will do so again and again. Beyond these larger festivals are the rites of small continuities, subtle observances that stitch meaning into the ordinary days. There is the simple ritual of evening story, for instance. Every ship night, in the last hour before lights dim, an elder or a rotating volunteer sits in the common area with whoever wishes to listen, often a circle of children, and quite a few adults too. They tell a short story, or read a passage from an old Earth book, or perhaps a journal entry from the ship's early years. This practice began as a way to soothe the young ones at bedtime, but over generations it evolved into a cherished communal exhale at day's end. The tales remind everyone of their shared heritage and the continuity of experience from one day or decade to the next. There is also the ritual of remembrance held quietly each year on the launch date of the ship. It's not a somber, funeral-like ceremony, but a gentle acknowledgement of those who have come before. The crew gathers in the central atrium, The names of crew members who have died, now etched in a simple plaque on the wall, are softly spoken aloud by their descendants or friends. Each name is met with a moment of silence and a collective nod. Then a young person, often someone who has come of age that year, stands and reads a statement of gratitude for the sacrifices and efforts of all previous generations. This is followed not by tears, but by sharing a round of the ship's herbal tea, each person raising their cup in a silent toast to the ancestors. The feeling in that gathering is warm and connected. It reinforces the sense that the voyage is a relay across time, each generation carrying the torch forward. Births are celebrated with quiet joy as well, even amid the need to carefully manage population. When a new baby's first cry sounds in the small infirmary, a ripple of delight spreads through the ship. Neighbours prepare a naming day gathering where the infant is formally welcomed. A tree seedling might be planted in the hydroponic orchard in honour of the new life, a tiny citrus or apple tree that will grow as the child grows. The community presents the parents with small handmade gifts, perhaps a soft blanket stitched from patches of old cloth, or a mobile crafted of paper stars to hang above the cradle. In the softly lit gathering, an elder whispers a blessing for the child's long road ahead, and a navigator promises to teach them the stars when they're older. It's a tender rite that underscores continuity. As one life begins, a tree takes root, and hope is renewed once more. Throughout the year, the ship finds many excuses to celebrate. There is the cycle's turn, a modest observance each time the ship completes one full rotation around the galactic center it left, an almost unfathomably long period, marked more in principle than actuality. More concretely, they celebrate each time the ship crosses an imaginary milestone, such as a certain number of years or kilometers traveled, often turning it into a day for games and reflection on progress. And there are personal milestones turned communal. The day a young apprentice earns their competency in navigation or medicine is often celebrated with a special meal and songs. These may seem small, but they carry the crew through the long stretch of years, giving a sense of forward motion and achieved steps, however incremental. In all these festivals and rites, there is an undercurrent of gratitude and continuity. Because their calendar is one they crafted themselves, unbound from Earth's seasons or the orbit of any sun, each celebration feels especially meaningful. It is a conscious choice to rejoice, a way to remind themselves that life is happening now, not just at the destination. These events, whether lively or quiet, knit the community together. Birthdays, seed days, feasts at aphelion, and little weekly traditions. All are like beads on a thread, marking time not as empty waiting, but as life being lived. In honouring them, the travellers affirm that even in an interstellar crossing, there are moments worth pausing for, joys to be shared, and milestones to honour on the long road between stars. On a ship where every resource is finite and shared, a special ethic governs daily life, an ethic of the commons. At its heart lies a simple understanding. What sustains one person must sustain all. This understanding finds expression in how supplies are measured, distributed, and cared for, recorded carefully in the ship's communal ledger. Each week, a small team updates the ledger, a living document that tracks stocks of food, water, fuel, and essential materials. In a makeshift office by the hydroponics bay, they quietly tally the harvest yields, the output of the water recyclers, the drawdown of the oxygen candles, and even the wear and tear on tools and machine parts. The ledger is not secreted away or guarded by bureaucracy. It's pinned openly as a digital bulletin for any crew member to see. This transparency is deliberate. Everyone aboard knows, in broad strokes, how much they have and how carefully it must be husbanded. Children are even taught to read the simpler entries as an exercise in arithmetic and responsibility. They might learn, for instance, that we have X litres of water in reserve and Y expected from recycling tomorrow, and what that means for their daily baths or dishwashing. With knowledge comes a culture of restraint and respect. There is a gentle phrase often repeated in teaching moments: take joy in enough. In the galley at mealtimes, this means portions are satisfying but never excessive, and leftovers are rare. The cooks plan menus with an eye to using every edible part of a plant or animal product. If carrots are abundant this week, they'll appear roasted for dinner, and the tops will be blended into a pesto the next day. A fish caught from the aquaponic tank might be filleted for a special meal, with the bones and scraps simmered into a soup stock. There is creativity in this frugality that the crew takes pride in, a feeling that using resources fully is its own quiet art form. Personal belongings, too, are managed with a spirit of sharing. Clothing, for example, is communal to an extent. The ship has a single closet of children's clothes, where each generation of kids borrows what they need and returns or refashions items as they outgrow them. Adults have their own small wardrobes, but if someone needs a spare coverall or an outfit for a festival, they will readily swap or lend among each other rather than hoard extras. The same goes for tools. A set of fine woodworking chisels might technically belong to the carpentry workshop, but everyone knows they're available if a job calls for them. Rare items, a particularly strong medicine, a unique electronic component, are stored centrally and accessed by need, not by clout or favoritism. Over time, this has become second nature. There is comfort in knowing that one doesn't have to own everything personally. The community's holdings are there for all, and one's duty is to use only what is needed and care for it well. The ethic of the commons extends to decision-making about resources. Major choices, like whether to allocate precious energy to produce a new batch of plastics, or how to adjust food ration formulas after an unexpectedly small crop yield, are made collectively when possible. The Governance Council, comprising representatives of various work groups and age groups, holds open meetings where any crew member can listen and contribute. In these meetings, arithmetic mingles with philosophy. They'll discuss the gentle mathematics of enough, weighing data from the ledger against the well-being of the crew. The tone is considerate and measured. Should they dim the lights by a further 5% during sleep hours to save power? Can they afford to increase the ration of fruit now that the orchard is thriving, or better to dry and store the surplus? Each proposal is evaluated not only for efficiency, but for fairness and morale. For instance, there was a time a few years back when the yeast cultures that supplement their diet began to wane. The yield of yeast-based protein patties dropped, raising concern about meeting nutritional needs. Rather than simply tighten belts and issue a stern ration reduction, the council and crew together found a multi-pronged solution. The gardeners agreed to devote a bit of extra algae for protein to fill the gap. The cooks got creative with new recipes to make smaller portions feel ample, and the engineers prioritized tweaking the bioreactor for yeast regrowth. During the few lean weeks, families instinctively served children and elders first, and adults took a little less without any mandate needed. The crisis passed with minimal distress, largely because the ethic of sharing and sacrifice was already ingrained. Trust in the community's goodwill proved as nourishing as the food itself. From a young age, everyone aboard learns that nothing truly belongs to an individual alone. Not water, not space, not even time. A child drawing from the drinking tap is gently reminded by a nearby adult, "Leave some for the next one." It's a kindly delivered lesson, more habit than admonishment. The child nods and fills their cup only 2/3, knowing that is the unspoken rule. Similarly, when someone tinkers in the machine shop, they leave it a little cleaner than they found it, aware that another will use it after. The ship itself is seen as the ultimate commons, a vessel that holds them all in its protective shell. Thus, an act of waste or selfish hoarding is not just impractical, it's almost a taboo, a breach of the unspoken social contract that has kept them thriving. The ledger and the commons mindset has also cultivated a unique form of wealth among the travellers, the wealth of trust. Because all have access to what they need and all contribute what they can, there is little envy and little fear about survival day to day. A person's riches are measured in their skills, their reliability, their generosity, things that only increase when shared. An old saying aboard goes, "No one goes hungry when everyone brings a little." It's often quoted when dealing with resources beyond food, too. If a crew member falls ill and can't perform their work for a time, others quietly pick up the slack. If a family's water usage runs high one month because a child needed extra baths due to a rash, no one scolds. Others simply use a bit less so the average holds. The understanding is implicit and reciprocal. Even so, there is structure ensuring equilibrium. The quartermasters and council members gently intervene if patterns of excess or shortage emerge. On rare occasions, a friendly talk or a community forum might be convened to address an imbalance, perhaps reminding everyone to be mindful of power use during a particularly cloudy period when solar collection is low, or suggesting tips on stretching a certain spice that's running out. These are handled not as reprimands, but as collective problem-solving sessions. The mood is usually proactive. How do we adjust together? Rather than, who is to blame? In this way, the gentle mathematics of enough governs life. It's the art of balancing ambition with prudence, desire with practicality. The people aboard don't live in austere denial. They celebrate when they can, they savour what they have, but underlying each action is awareness. A crew member finishes repairing a machine and, as a matter of course, returns the spare parts neatly to their labelled pouch, conscious that these bolts and fuses must serve for years to come. A teenager designing a new game on the computer spends an hour of computing time and then yields the console to her friend, mindful of the shared schedule for using processing power. Such everyday choices, repeated across dozens of tasks by hundreds of people, keep the ship in balance. Ultimately, the ledger and the commons are about more than tallying supplies. They represent an ethic of care. Every entry logged in that digital ledger is an act of hope that the journey will continue smoothly, a promise that they will not run out if they all remain thoughtful. Every time someone shares a tool or forgoes a luxury for the greater good, it reinforces the trust holding the community together. In the vast emptiness of interstellar space, this trust and ethical sharing might be the most precious resources of all. They ensure that, whatever challenges arise, the crew will face them together, each person a keeper of enough for themselves and for one another. Night has fallen in the little world of the ship. The lights are low and gentle, casting only a silvered glow along the corridors. In the hushed stillness, it's easy to forget the stars outside, the void beyond these walls, and feel only the warmth of home and the day's lingering echoes. This is midship night, a soft settling into routine as the journey deepens. In a small cabin, a mother tucks her young son into his narrow bunk. He's fighting sleep, as children often do, asking for just one more story. With a smile, she obliges, whispering a short tale about a blue planet where nightingales sang in evening gardens, a tale passed down from her own grandmother. The boy's eyes grow heavy as he imagines those mythical birds. By the time the story ends, he is drifting off, clutching a handmade cloth doll. The mother watches him a moment in the dim light, brushes a stray curl from his forehead, and quietly slips out. In the corridor, she walks softly. Many are already asleep behind closed doors, and she knows how sound carries in the quiet. Elsewhere, in the common room, a few late talkers linger in conversation, voices low and drowsy. Two old friends sit at a table with mugs of chamomile tea. They speak of small things, a funny moment from years ago, the progress of a grandchild's literacy, a minor repair scheduled for tomorrow. There is no urgency, no pressing agenda. Their laughter, when it comes, is muffled and warm. Eventually, one yawns and the other pats his hand. They exchange a knowing look. Time for bed. Together they tidy the cups and dim the room's lights the rest of the way, before parting with a gentle good night. In the navigation alcove, a single navigator is on duty for the night watch. She sits before a panel of quietly blinking indicators, the soft glow reflecting in her eyes. It's peaceful here. No alerts, just the steady confirmation that the ship is on course, the reactor output normal, the cosmic ray shielding strong. She takes a moment to gaze through the small viewport above her station. The stars outside are hard points of light against a black velvet darkness. They do not twinkle. There is no atmosphere here to make them dance. They simply shine steadily. The navigator's gaze drifts to one star in particular, faint but distinct, almost directly ahead. The destination star, still generations away, but a constant beacon. She allows herself a single thought of the future, of her descendants perhaps stepping foot on a new world under that star's sky. Then she blinks, smiles to herself, and returns to the present moment. She logs a brief note in the Night Watch journal. Midship night, all systems nominal, crew at rest, stars steady. In that simple entry lies a world of meaning. Another quiet night in the long journey, all well. In the very middle of the ship, near the central axis, gravity's pull is so slight that a small object can float if nudged. Here, during the day, it's often a busy passageway of people moving between sections or performing maintenance. But at night, it falls silent and nearly empty. A lone engineer is up late in that axis corridor, finishing a routine check on a set of thrusters. He's secured by a tether, drifting gently as he tightens one last bolt. His tools are magnet clamped to the wall to avoid any clatter. When he's satisfied all is in order, he pauses before heading back down to the gravity of the ring. He closes his eyes in the weightless hush, letting himself simply float for a minute. In the quiet darkness, he can hear his own heartbeat, and faintly, the distant hum of the ship's systems through the metal. It is a comforting sound, the heartbeat of the only world he's ever known. With a content sigh, he pulls himself along the guide rail and descends out of the hub, hand over hand, returning to the tug of borrowed gravity and a well-earned rest. Throughout the ship, similar scenes play out. A nurse on the late shift tiptoes through the infirmary to check on a recuperating patient, adjusting their blanket and noting their peaceful breathing. In the garden dome, automatic misters release a soft haze over the plants, the artificial dew of night, while a sleepy cat, for yes, they have a cat or two aboard, cherished for companionship, prowls the rows, and then curls up under a broad leaf to doze. The lights in the chapel nook, a small multi-faith meditation space, are down to tiny amber nightlights. A single figure sits on a cushion inside, not praying for anything in particular, just sitting with the vastness of the moment, feeling at one with the silence. The ship itself seems to exhale gently at day's end. Temperature drops a degree to mimic night's coolness. Power usage dips to its baseline. The massive engines, long inactive during coasting, are silent, leaving only the soft electrical thrumming of life support systems. If one were to stand in the central atrium at this hour, they might notice something like the sound of starlight, the faint, high resonance of the ship's spin, the far-off whir of a fan, maybe the murmur of someone talking in their sleep through a thin partition. It is the sound of a community at rest in the heart of endless space. Midship night is a time of reflection. Lying in their bunks, some people cannot help but let their minds drift. A father, arm tucked behind his head, stares at the dim ceiling and thinks about the ancestors who started this voyage. How they too must have passed nights like this, wondering about the unknown ahead. A young woman, having taken on new duties that day, quietly recites the steps of her training in her mind, the darkness helping her concentrate on committing them to memory. Across the corridor, her grandmother lies awake a bit longer than usual, recalling a lullaby her own mother sang to her many decades ago during another midship night. She hums it now, very softly, the melody barely above a breath. In the quiet, perhaps a few nearby hear it and smile in the dark, comforted by the familiar notes shared through the thin walls. There is no finality to this night, no grand conclusion, just as there was no dramatic dawn. This part of the journey is all flow, one day into the next, marked by gentle rituals rather than big events. That understanding lends a certain peace to everyone's rest. Tomorrow will come, carrying tasks and routines, much like today's. And that is a comfort. In the long middle stretch of an interstellar crossing, normalcy is a treasure. Midship night signifies that normalcy is intact, that things are as they should be. One by one, lights in the portholes go completely dark as the last crew members drift into sleep. The generationship sails on through the star-studded darkness, a tiny, self-contained universe full of sleeping souls. Inside, dreams intermingle with the ever-present hum of machinery. Perhaps some dream of Earth, with its true winds and open skies. Others might dream of the new world awaiting far ahead. Many simply dream of everyday things. A shared meal, a solved problem, a child's laughter, transposed into fanciful scenes. In the quiet bridge, the night navigator continues her watch, the only fully wakeful human for miles and miles in any direction. She stretches and takes a sip of lukewarm tea, eyes on the console, and thinks how beautiful it is that an entire community is peacefully asleep right now, trusting in their ship, in her, and in the great unknown to carry them safely. It is a profound intimacy. Hundreds of people all dreaming together in the dark, their lives intertwined in this singular endeavour. Midship night deepens. Outside, an infinite tapestry of stars arches around them, indifferent to the tiny ship's passage, yet somehow also its silent companions. Inside, the ship's clocks keep ticking toward morning. In a few more hours, someone will stir, a panel will brighten, an artificial dawn will begin to bloom once more. But for now, the ship's pulse is slow and steady. The generation ship, halfway, or perhaps more, to its destination, is at peace in its long night. And in that peace lies a quiet faith, that as surely as this night has come, a new day will follow, and after countless such nights and days, the voyage will find its horizon. Until then, they rest in the embrace of the only home they have ever known, hearts beating in unison with the gentle rhythms of their crossing of the interstellar void.